Oh no.
That's the G.
Welcome to the Queen's Court. I appreciate you joining us today. We got a lot to talk about. The Knicks went 2-2 since we were last here on the Queen's Court, but it seems like a different 2-2. And we're going to talk about that today. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button so you'll be notified anytime we go live, whether that's Queen's Court, of course, the NBA report with Ron and John from Still Knicks fans, the controversy with John. I'm not sure what Tone is doing. If he has something planned on this channel, if so, he'll tell you about that. And of course, pregame, postgame, the morning shoot around, the coach's corner with Simeon Russell, the creator of this channel. I do want to take this time. I'm not sure if I thank the fans or Sim for me on my channel, Dope Soul Sports Talk, reaching 1,000 subscribers. That doesn't happen, or at the very least doesn't happen as quickly as it did without this platform, the Queen's Court, and you guys supporting me here and supporting me over there. I really appreciate it. And to you, Sam, forever grateful for recognizing greatness. I appreciate you. Let me let in.
Talk your talk, Queen. Talk your talk.
Let me invite in Tony Crow, Knicks and Bruises, DJ Shuttle, he'll Knicks. What is it?
Knicks vibes only. Hello.
Knicks vibes only. And for the first time on the Queen's Court, D's World of Hoops. Appreciate
What's up, guys?
you.
How you doing?
D, he'll talk about his channel as well. He'll also drop the link for you guys so you can subscribe to his channel as well. Hello,
No
fellas. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me, Steph. Appreciate it.
Listen, this is the Queen's Court for anybody who wants to join. And any, as long as you're a Knicks fan and you're not here to troll, you are welcome.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. You see what happens when you go live? I took diligent notes on Notion. That's what I use. And it's not here. Wait, maybe see. Hold on.
You don't have all the notes committed to memory?
Oh, there we go. There we go. I was starting to get a little nervous here. All right. So basically what we're going to do, I'm going to give a quick review of last week's games, and then I'm going to ask you, we're going to go from there, as far as what your impressions are, different things like that. So let's get to that screen. All right. And I'm just going to give you a short read just to rehash your memory. All right. So we played Minnesota. We won that game 120-107. If you remember, Sims started in that game over iHeart. Knicks perimeter and three-point defense looked improved, but they still gave up some open threes. Let me see if I can move myself over just a little bit. Okay. They still gave up some open threes. Minnesota just didn't hit them. Randle with 31 points. If you remember that game, 8 rebounds, 8 3-pointers. I wasn't very happy with him, but he did hit, I think, 50% of them. RJ continued his trend in that game of sharing the ball. He was hitting the head in transition using a skip pass. Minnesota cut into the lead multiple times, but the Knicks answered every call. They bended, but they didn't break. That was Minnesota. Then on to Brooklyn at Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks lost 85-102. It was basically a disaster. There was no lead changes. The game was never tied. New York never led. Brooklyn's biggest lead was 27. Durant with the 29-point triple-double. Randle with 19 points in the first half, but just 5 in the second. Brunson, 3 points in the first half. Barrett, 4 points, in the second half. No fight, in my opinion. Curry, Harris, Claxton for the Nets all scored above their season average. Knicks shot 30% from the field, 30% from three. You just can't win like that. We'll get into it. I'm just trying to give you guys just a little refresher. Then we went into, Detroit at Madison Square Garden. We won 121 to 112. Good ball and player movement. Defense still wasn't that great, but Detroit wasn't able to take advantage of it. The Knicks did allow them back in the game in the fourth quarter. I think they got within 6, but the Knicks were able to pull that one out with some timely shots. Again, our defense was not great. And then the OKC game, I'm sure that's pretty fresh. I don't think I need to say much about that. A historic first quarter for the Knicks, 48 points, the most first points scored in the first quarter in Knicks history. They were good offensively, 135 points in regulation. I think that was the most points they scored in regulation since 1979, and I think that's when they gave it up to I want to say the Kansas City Kings. The defense was at a critical level, in my opinion. OKC shot 62.5% from the field. They shot 55% from three. After coming in ranked 29th in the league in 3-point percentage. RJ struggled, to say the least. Our team defense was just atrocious. And Tibbs, in my opinion, appeared to kind of lose his mind, playing 28 for the entire fourth quarter, bringing Randle back in the game, leaving RJ and Brunson on the bench. We're going to get into all of that. But let's just start with, what were your overall impressions on this 2-2 week? Let me know if you need me to bring that back up. Tony, DJ Shuttle, and then D coming around.
Yeah, peace, Queen. Shout out to the chat. Oh, this was a disappointing 2-2 week. You know, we kind of, for the most part, thought we would be a 500 team, and having a 2-2 week shouldn't feel the way this 2-2 week feels, but it does. You know, we just talked about it on Knicks and Bruises. We have to win the games that we're supposed to win, and that last one was the game we were supposed to win. It's crazy how one game, I think, would have made a difference overall in how we're feeling right now. You know what I mean? The Brooklyn loss, it was bad, but I think overall we could live with it. We could deal with it. We know Brooklyn was a better team than their record suggested. We know it was only a matter of time, for the most part, for them to right in the ship. But why do these teams have to right in the ship against us? You know what I mean? Like this is what Boston did last year after a great win by us. They right in the ship. Now, granted, this one wasn't a win by us, but we weren't that mad about that Nets loss. That last game, though, I mean, it's really put a damper on my spirit personally. And we're gonna need not only a win, but we're gonna need a big win, an impressive win, to kind of change my outlook on where this team currently is and where we're going.
No doubt, DJ Shuttle.
Terrible. I mean, terrible. I mean, I do think that they won 2 games that I think when you say games that you look in the schedule before the weeks, all right. To me, if they lost the Detroit or the Minnesota game, you know, I'm feeling a little differently. I'm not taking this as tough as others are, but man, OKC, I mean, like, for you to score 135 points and lose And it just looked like OKC just was like yo, y'all my sons, y'all my little brothers. Like Giddy is I was like coming in the paint, bumping people like off me, and it was like there was just not a fight and not an attitude about the
Correct.
team, and that was the part. I mean, I know it's a 12 o'clock game. I DJ late at night on Friday and Saturday nights. I got to get up Saturday and Sunday mornings. My body is there, but my mind ain't. So, like, I could definitely dig it with the 12 noon game. But when you score 48 points in the first quarter, that's different than if you would have scored 18 points in the first quarter. I could be like, all right, they was hanging out last night. They was at Starlets or something. They was doing too much. They was turned up in the city. But, I mean, you scored a lot. So, how are you letting the team shoot 63% in the NBA? I knew the defense was going to be bad, and I knew he had to outscore people, but I didn't think it would be that bad.
Right. And I just want to say before I get to D, they came in as top 7 in offensive rating, right? So I thought the Knicks would have somewhat of a tough time scoring. They didn't at all. This was all defense, in my opinion. D?
Okay. 2-2 week, right? First of all, thank you for having me. Peace to the chat, peace to the panel as well. I expected this, guys. I have us pinned at 35 to 38 wins for this season. And it was because of these specific reasons that we're seeing early on. And that's, I already knew perimeter defensively wise with that starting lineup, with how the rotations were being shaped up, I knew it was going to be a problem. We are inside a perimeter-driven league by stars that are perimeter players. We have to be able to contain the basketball. If you're not able to do that, it's going to be a long night. Dribble drive penetration, closeout defense, help and recovery has been an issue since preseason. So I expected this. Offensively, though, if you look at some of the categories, we've improved in a lot of areas,
We have.
especially points in the paint, especially fast break points. So these are great things. We're 8th in pace right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is fantastic. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter at what time and space you on. You have to play defense.
Right.
And this is any level of basketball. This is any level of life. You have to be able to defend the goal. We have not done a good job of that. So, of course, we're going to have games where we shoot 50%. But our issue is that we're having teams shooting 55 to 60%. This has happened 3 or 4 times this season already, and we're only in our 12th game.
Right.
So, apparently, right, it's Captain Obvious moment. There's changes that have to be made. But
No doubt about it.
I think where we all have to get together at is that what's the first step? What is the first thing that we want to prioritize as far as making a change as to this roster that we have and as to this upcoming season that we're going to, of course, have to play out these other 70 games or so?
No doubt. I'm bringing up the offensive stats just to your point, D. And this is through 12 games, not 6 games. Comparing last season to this season. In points, last season we were 26 with 12. Offensive rating last season we were 23rd with 17. Pace we were 29th with 8. Field goal percentage, not that much of a difference. 3-point percentage we're worse. Free throw percentage we're 11th. That's hard to believe. We've had some brutal games. Assists 17th. Turnovers are a little, worse than last season. Assist to turnover a little better. Bench scoring much better, than last season. But again, these are our offensive stats. Any player, anything player wise, team wise, scheme wise, organization wise that stood out for you this week, and then we'll go the other way. DJ Shuttle, D, and then Tony.
Well, I mean, on this 4-game swing, two things, 2 players I want to point out. First is for the guy that is the most lightning rod play to talk about. Julius Randle is doing his part on offense.
One off.
I mean, defense leaves quite a bit to be desired, but he is giving the ball up. I couldn't believe it. I was watching the game yesterday. Right off, it must have been the first or second possession. The Knicks had the ball. He grabs the rebound. He passes it up quick. And I think it was Brunson that got it. And then he passed it up quick, and they got a quick basket. And I'm like, Julius, yes, that's exactly what we need you to do. But, I mean, overall, while I need his defense to improve, I think the things that we didn't like the most from him on offense, holding the ball, he's off of it. He's not insisting to bring it up every time. So I think he's doing what we need him to do. His numbers are good. On offense. And secondly is Cam. Cam is showing me that he may potentially be the change that is going to happen, because there is going to be a shakeup to the rotation, to the lineup, to the starters, something, and we got to commit to it at some point. And I think Cam might have earned his shot to be in that starting lineup and get 5-10 games or so to see what he does. And I'm proud for how he's doing it. It's more on defense most consistently, but he's had moments on offense too. So that's what gives Grimes the opportunity last year. And so now all Cam has to do is just get in there and let his natural ability and the flow of games give him increased chances on offense. And he can potentially show what he's got going. So that's kind of intriguing me going forward right now.
Let me ask you a question, though. Do you think Ham's offensive game yesterday had a lot to do with the fact that RJ was in foul trouble in that first half? And will he get those same offensive opportunities, or will he take those same offensive opportunities when RJ is back in that starting lineup? Because RJ, Brunson, and Randle are the highest usage guys on our team and in that starting lineup.
Well, there's a couple of responses I want to give there. The first thing is you have to make the most of the opportunity when you get it. So if it's because Artie's in foul trouble today, if it's because Brunson's in foul trouble tomorrow, if it's because Randall's in foul trouble the next day, so be it. Whatever it is, that's your opportunity, and that's what you have to make the most of it. You have more opportunities like that. You get more confidence. The team is having more confidence in you. Now you get more opportunities, and it just has a continuous flow of growth and development. So I think ultimately at this point, while I was really excited and I still am a believer in Grimes, I always say the best ability is availability. He's been hurt. Cam's, to his credit, he's been healthy. He's been doing what the team's been asking him to do. And, Fournier he ain't it. At this point, Cam's earned a shot. And I think that, we got to see what he can do. So, I'm looking forward to seeing Tibbs follow my lead that I've been telling him what he needs to do. I'm sending the telepathy to him. Give Cam a shot. He's earned it now, and let's get it popping.
Yeah, well, he's started pretty much every game since he's been in that starting lineup. D
and Tibbs is giving different lineups and different looks and more people in the rotation. All the Tibbs haters that says he don't do this, he don't do that. He's trying different things. So Cam is gonna be another example of Tibbs showing you that he doesn't hate the guy. He doesn't hate anybody. He just lets people earn their trust and their opportunity. And Cam is now doing that.
Earn his trust. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a circle of trust. You don't just you don't just get it easily, and I respect it because I don't give it up easy either.
Okay, all right.
Wise man.
D.
In
terms of what stood out, yeah, go ahead.
No, to your questions. Yeah, because I kind of lost track what your question was.
Any particular things stood out for you this week, whether that was player wise, team wise, organization wise, coach wise, that you want to
Yeah.
comment on over this 2-2 week?
Nothing too big. Um, since Cam was the topic, I think I'll veg you back on that and
Mhm.
just say that when Cam shows the pit bull, and I'm pretty sure the panel will agree, when Cam shows the pit bull, we love him. He showed that in Memphis, and he showed that last night. Or I mean, I'm sorry, yesterday afternoon. And when he's had it, we loved it. And to speak to your questioning about would he have had that many opportunities if RJ was not in the game and stuff of that nature? Of course not, because the ball usage is just too high between Randle, between RJ, and between Brunson.
Right.
But it goes to show you that, and this is one of my 10 commandments when I'm on the show: 5 players being involved in the offense. 5 players have to be a threat on the court in order for your defense to go ahead and shift and shuffle as to how you're ball reversing and how you're running your pick and roll, as you're running your pin downs and stuff of that nature. So, if anything, and I'm being very optimistic here tonight, if anything, it will show Tibbs that you have to work more of your options within your offensive scheme. Okay. So if you could work Cam through a backdoor, just a subtle backdoor, just a subtle flex cut to the corner, to a screen that could be set by Julius in order him to get him an ISO post up on the baseline or something like that, can be utilized. So, but as far as to answer your question, though, I just wanted to get into that, Cam.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
This is an experienced panel. Wherever the show goes, it goes.
I got you. But it wasn't anything that really brought my attention for the fact the defensive glaring issues or something that I still have to. It has evolved. As good could evolve, bad could evolve as well. That's why people cut the weeds in their backyard so then their grass could grow properly. So, my only question with that is that how does Tibbs get a handle? You see, because you could teach technical. You see, I could teach a guy how to be in a chair more. I could teach a defense to shift baseline and then we'll overhelp. And then when they shift, we could do that. But intensity, effort, communication, people being on the same accord, those are very big issues to have so early in the season. You would think it was the damn honeymoon phase. Honeymoon phase ended that early? So,
Yeah.
West Coast trip coming up. So to answer, there was nothing I really saw that was no different than what I had seen in the preseason and in the first 5 or 6 games or 7 games. Let's see. Sometimes teams come together. Sometimes when they're in a what's the word I'm looking for? Adverse environment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we see something like that. We'll find out tomorrow night.
Yeah. I mean, before I get to Tony, the only thing with that is I'm not sure how much we're going to win, but would a better showing be enough? We'll talk about Tibbs and him being on the hot seat. I mean, we're paying the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best team in the conference, in the Western Conference, in this upcoming trip, right? Teams that the Knicks are just not as good as. So is the bar for the front office, we'll see, winning those games or showing improvement or showing fight. Tony, anything from last week, player-wise, team-wise, that stood out for you?
Yeah, shout out to D's World of Sports. Any other day, you would have sounded like me. Like everything you just said was very optimistic, and I'm assuming this is how I sound on a
Nah, you sound
normal occasion.
pom-pomish.
Well, I cannot be as optimistic. Like what I've learned in this week was I was wrong. I was too optimistic. That's what I learned. That Brunson, has he made an impact on the team? Absolutely. But I've seen so many chinks in the armor or so many holes that I thought weren't gonna be as effective in a negative way for this team. And this is not me taking
because he
shots.
was here.
This is not me taking shots at Brunson. Yes, I just overvalued his impact because some of the same things that I thought he was going to be fixing are occurring. You know what I mean? This lost last game and last week when we blew the lead, like both of those two games, I said, "Yo, this is the best Knicks I've seen all season." First after the first quarter, I'm like, "Yo, this is the best Knicks." Like, if we could be this team, but then we lose both of those games, we blow both of those games. I don't know if we were up by 20 in either one, but this is what it felt like. That stretch where we were just blowing 20-point leads, finding ways to lose. I'm losing the optimism, to be honest. And it's based off of this week. And maybe I'm overblowing it because it's 2-2. Like I said earlier,
Right.
we expected this to be about a 500 team for the most part, right? But we can't lose these games that we're supposed to win. We got to win these, and then we got to surprise people with some of the tough ones. And we've been barely winning the games that we were supposed to win. Top three guys on the team out, and we scratching and clawing to get a win. Like something has to give. As far as disappointments, for me, the biggest one is Fournier. Um, I felt like him being demoted to the second unit could have and should have put a spark plug in him, and I honestly open even some opportunities for him to be more versatile in with that second unit than being slotted into a specific role in that first unit. Haven't seen it. He's still struggling. He's still the defense. He played scrappy defense last game, but the defense is still an issue, whether it's the first unit or second unit. That's concerning to me. And I just feel like we need to make some type of move, some type of change. We need something. It don't necessarily have to be huge, but let's try something small first and see if that could get things sparked and started. And then if not, we get into that point as early as it is in the season. We're gonna have to start looking for the future and direction.
I just want to say stuff. One thing I failed to mention is I don't want to call him my whipping boy, but I know I'm kind of hard on Mitch, and I think him being out these couple of games shows that he don't score, but his shot blocking and just his presence on the defense, even though we've had some bad defensive games with him in there, it feels like without him it's even worse.
Right.
So, hopefully, he doesn't do what he's been doing for the first 4 years and he plays more games.
Can I speak to that real quick? Earlier I was trying to think of what I'm going to talk about on the show today. What I'm going to talk about. So I started with looking into Mitchell Robinson's absence because we haven't played as well in his absence than in his presence, in my opinion, just based off the eye test. But I was like, let me look at defensive ratings and things of that nature just to see if I was onto something. And the defensive rating and the stat difference as a team with him and without him are very minute. It's like one point in whichever category you want to look at. The difference is not that big. I'm not doubting what you're saying, Shuttle, because I had the same thought. Like maybe that's the reason why we're not playing defensively as well as we should be. But the stat difference in the team is not even that different. So I don't know if that's. I mean, maybe there's another way to look at it, but I don't know if we're onto something or not.
About Mitch, real quick. I'll be in defense of Mitch for only this reason. We don't have perimeter defenders that could contain dribble penetration in order to take the pressure off him having to play every single gap in lane. We overpaid him because Robert Williams is making $5 million less than him this year, and the production's just way better. And Robert Williams can guard the perimeter. And Robert Williams at least has somewhat of an offensive game. But Mitch is valuable to the cause of what we have now is because he brings necessary interior presence that, as you guys see right now, since his absence, is absent. So with Mitch, now, of course, Mitch has to improve in like 75 different thousand other areas, but he does bring a certain presence to that interior that we don't get to see the full fruition of it because our perimeter defense has been so poor so early.
But is that absence affecting? Is that why we're losing? Because I think, to Queen's credit, she's been screaming perimeter defense all year. That's what I'm saying. His absence hasn't affected that, and that's what's been killing us more than interior presence. Whether he's on the floor or not. I'm not taking anything. Like, Mitch is my guy. You know what I mean? You go ask anybody. Sure. I'm the one that, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta take the heat for the contract. You know what I mean? You said you defended him this one time, so I know your overall opinion of him is probably some of the things that I've had to defend against before. So this is no way of me bashing him. I'm just saying what's killing us may not be was killing us with him on the floor and with him off the floor. You know what I mean?
Listen, you could have Will Chamberlain back there. If you don't have the perimeter defenders in order to contain the basketball, close out, and help it recover, you're in trouble.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I think what stood out for me this week is when you're losing, everybody looks bad. And when you're losing the way we're losing, everybody looks bad, right? The chemistry is good. You're winning games. Oh, this is a talented team. We string some Wednesday. You start losing the way we lose, you're like, oh man, we need an infusion of talent on this team. I think what stood out is the lack of fight in this team. This team comes across to me as being just a bit soft, a bunch of nice guys that don't want to get in each other's face. Somebody missed a rotation, they just turn and like put their hands up like who was supposed to be there instead of going in somebody's face and saying, yo, you were supposed to be there. What's going on? We don't have that. I don't know if it's because Brunson is here. It's a new mix. I'm not sure what it is. Cam is just getting in the starting lineup. I'm not sure what it is, but there's no fight in this team. There's no hard fouls. I'm not talking about injuring anybody, but just you're gonna have to earn this at the line. Like, you're not gonna keep coming in here laying us up. Just none of that.
Dancing and prancing in the lane.
Right. No fight to get back in a game. You know what I mean? Like, even Detroit got it back within 6. I never felt threatened by their run, but they fought and they got it back within. I mean, I guess, quickly hit some shots for us in that last quarter. I forgot who else it was, got us within, I don't know, maybe double digits or something. So I'm not talking about everybody. But overall, as a team, I just don't see a lot of fight in these guys.
Team
and then and then the second thing is I'm glad our offense is improved. But you can't defend. You're not shooting a 3. It's going to be hard for you to win. That's just not sustainable because you're not stopping the 3 and you're not hitting it at a good enough clip. So to your point, Tony, in terms of little moves, are you talking about external moves or internal moves? Because for me, start your best defensive team. Bring those offensive players off the bench, plug them in here and there. Who's my best defensive team? That's who I'm starting. I think it's at that critical level right now.
I mean, I'm not opposed to either one. And when we start talking about Tibbs and the hot seat, I'll go in depth about my thoughts on that. But I mean, I think both things, if not either one of those things, could help us. You know what I mean? Whether it's a small roster move, a small uh internal move, as far as the front office, coaching staff, whatever, it could help us. But I'm more concerned. I don't think a small move is necessarily a short term move. So I'm more concerned with something that is small but can be long term, help us long term. So that's what I think we need. Not something that's just for the year, not something that's just for you know what I mean, for the remainder of the season, but something that one way or another could help us moving forward.
Okay. All right. I want to go back to Cam for a little bit before I talk about our impressions of our top three players. I'm not going to say the big three. I'm just going to say our top three players. But just impressions on Cam last game, just real quick. Is this a sign of things to come or just a flash, right? Because you have players like that. And us as Knicks fans, if a player has a bad game like RJ, we're so down on them. If they have a good game like Cam, sign them up 100 million. I'm not saying that that the fan base is going that far with Cam, but is that a sign of things to come? Or is that just a good game that players have from time to time? What's your gut feeling? D, I'll start with you. And Tony, the president, we're gonna let you rock out.
Okay. So with Cam, here's my thing with Cam. Cam has all the tools in the tool shed in order to be a star in this league. And by star, I mean all-star.
Right.
It's all there. The physicality is there. It's what's inside, which seems to be and also injuries have hampered him as well.
Right, right.
So my thing with Cam, and this is my evaluation of this year of Cam. Cam's pit bull shows up every crescent moon. And for Cam, he has to be able to come out with that same tenacity, aggressiveness, that pit bull every game. And we don't know if that's a Cam thing. We don't know if that's a present environment thing. We don't know. But what we do know is this. And this is just my opinion. So I might expect some pushback on this. I don't think we have a star on this team.
No,
I don't. And
no doubt.
So therefore, if we don't have it, right, that equals that somebody has to be it, or at least dress to impress. You know, maybe it could be like an interview process or something like that. Okay. But somebody has to try to go ahead because it's not there. I understand that Randle's stats look the par. But when you have 7 losing seasons out of 8 seasons, you have to evaluate the fact that is he an impact winning player at the position at which the Knicks have him presently at, which is a 1 to 2 option between that range. I don't think it's there. So therefore, if I don't think that's there, Cam, come out like a pit bull every night. Quentin Grimes, come out like a pit bull. Emmanuel Quickly, come out like a pit bull every night. Obi Toppin, come out like a pit bull every night. Because we don't have it right now. And we're in search of seeing who that is. Or can we at least start building a foundation as it could begin that way? You see, when you do the small things right, the big things work out for you. So to answer with Cam, I think he has all the tools of the tool set. The issue is that can he merge himself as one mentally, physically, emotional, and spiritually on a game-to-game basis in order to do what he did against OKC? We will wait.
That's that Mamba mentality. And if Kobe was here, I'd like to believe Cam might be paying him a visit. And it's interesting that you mentioned Randle, because hate him or love him, Randle's not waiting for anybody to tell him, you know, be a bull, have that mentality, be aggressive, be assertive. Randle came into the league with that kind of attitude, like, yo, I'm a grown man, and you're not gonna treat me like a little boy out here. And that's why, he kind of probably rubbed some people the wrong way. But I could tell you, in my life, I know that experience. You assertive, you aggressive, you question things with people, you do whatever needs to get done, and people feel like you're doing too much. But you know what? If he wasn't doing too much, who would be doing it on this team? Clearly, nobody else has been doing it. The hope is that Brunson would kind of rein things in some. I think he has to some degree, but we absolutely need an upstick in that department where he takes ownership, he takes leadership, he steers guys in the right direction. No, over there. No, here's the ball. You take it, score. Like, he has to, have some of the cachet to empower some of the players in this regard that are younger players. But the problem is, they're younger, but he's not really that much older. So, and this is always this dynamic. Play the kids, play the kids, play the kids. But you know what? In life, you always need mentorship. You need people that can school you, that can show you the way. And doing it on the bench is not the same as doing it on the court. You need somebody that got some vet savvy that can help you on the court. Yeah, I agree. Cam has all of the, he has, everything in a holster to be able to be that guy. And I just hope that he gets a chance to start and keeps having more opportunities and shows us that he can be what, I'm gonna repeat it. I thought coming out of the draft that he was better than RJ. I've said this several times on the show. I'm gonna say it again. I thought he was better than RJ. I still think that he has physically, is shooting, dribbling, defense. I still think he has a higher upside than RJ. It's a matter of if he can get his mind in a place where he's committed to it, to take him there.
Yeah, this is what I'll say about Randle, because I know once Tony go, the president of the Cam Reddish Club, the whole Randle point is going to be lost. To Dee's point, I do not think Randle is a number one option. So my thought with bringing, but I wanted to see him with a point guard. My thought with bringing Brunson in, well, two things before I even get to that. I think Randle could be a good player if you limit his role. I think you have to limit his responsibility. I think you have to put him in a role where we're looking for you to score and rebound. Obviously, if you're double team, pass out of the double team, that's just basketball, right? And I think when he's in that circumscribed role, now the question is, will he accept that? Can you put the genie back in the bottle? That's a issue too. But you put him in that role, I think he can excel. So, but it's not just Brunson. You need Brunson and you need somebody else. Then that brings Randle down to, in my opinion, where he needs to be, that third option, where he's not in that decision-making type of mode. You are power forward. We need you to rebound. We need you to score. Obviously, pass out of the double team. He's a talented guy, in my opinion. He's a guy that at least this season, and people don't see it, working. Like, I saw him these past few games working on the offensive glass, trying to get us second opportunities. Defense, help defense. Oh, like whoa. Like whoa.
Randle,
now,
Randle couldn't help the homeless.
Right. On the ball defense, I think is a little better. His on the ball defense is a little better when he's engaged. But his off the ball defense,
he was playing tough against Durant. A lot of those shots Durant made,
but that's on the ball defense.
Randle was right there. But off the ball defense, it's like defense, like Space Cadet.
So for me, this is part of roster construction. To me, this is part of roster construction. Looking to see what you got, looking to see, I got to put this guy here, I got to put this guy here. I can't take this guy and ask him to do something that he can't do because his decision-making is just not there. I can't ask him to do that. You got to construct the roster where he's your third option. You got Brunson, you got a star. Now you got Randle. It's a whole different story than having Brunson and Randle or just having Randle. That being said, if the Knicks decide to move on from him, I'm okay with it. But you put him on another team where they have that, you're going to see him flourish because his role is going to be very circumscribed and you're going to see him flourish. And all I'm asking the Knicks to do is take advantage of what he can do, put him in the right position to succeed, construct this roster in such a way that he's in that role. Yes, Steve.
And to veggie back on your point, I think the issue is that they gave him the crown before he earned the kingdom, so to speak. So now what happened was that it's kind of like, any type of corporate job. Like if you're a manager, if you're some type of higher management or upper management and you get demoted, it's going to be a foul energy in that environment 8 out of 10 times. So Randle would never acquiesce to that third option that you're seeking for because he was top dog just once upon a time ago. And it wasn't that long ago. It was actually a blink ago. And I think he's not willing to relinquish that. And therefore, you still have communication, you still have chemistry, you still have roster construction issues because people are not put inside their proper place.
Yeah, but
the only thing I would say is I think he would, because I don't think he's having a problem with Brunson. And I think if you had Brunson, had you brought in Donovan Mitchell, I don't think he would have had an issue. I think it would have been an adjustment for him, but I don't think he would have been like, nah, I'm still number one on this team. I just don't think so.
I only say that because I'm sorry, Chody, just real quick. I only say that because he still leads the team in ball usage. And also, too, I noticed that when the pick and roll options break down for Jalen Brunson, they go right into Randle as a default. So that tells me, like, I got y'all here just in case y'all break down, just like any number one would do on any other team. So that's.
But I think that's his role on this team, and that's the roster construction I'm talking about, bringing somebody else. Because after Brunson, it is him. I don't think it's RJ right now. But but to your point, D, I just wonder. I'm just saying, I just wonder if there was somebody else, would that still be the same? If we had a star player, would that still be the same?
Interesting.
But we may have to give him up to get it, and I'm okay with that.
And I was just gonna, I was agreeing pretty much with everything you said, Queen. As far as the pushback with Randle, I think he has kind of taken a lesser role with Brunson here. I think he would be willing to take a lesser role if someone he's not going to give it away. He's not going to give it up. But if he knows that you're the next guy in line, I think he falls in line. I do believe that. And then with your analogy, as far as the demotion, as long as you keeping my pay the same, you know what I mean. I'll take the demotion most of the time. You know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm looking elsewhere where I got the same title. So I think you can get demoted if it doesn't affect you monetarily. You it's easier to continue and take that. What was the exact?
Some people, these athletes' egos is super huge.
Agreed.
And perks come with certain positions and titles.
True that. What was the exact question?
About Cam. Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or do you think it was just a flash?
I think it is more of a flash because I think it was circumstantial. I think game one and last game was circumstantial. I think we needed those things from him, and especially more of last game. He got the well, actually both games. He got the opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? Game one, I don't know if it was necessarily. I think he changed the dynamic of the game in game one, which looked a lot better for him. I think this particular one, we kind of wasn't in it, and he just continued to play well and have the opportunity. But I do like what we're getting from him overall. I'm okay with it being a flash in the pan as long as we get more flashes when
Okay.
every
Good
now and
point.
again. Like I don't think he's going to consistently put up these numbers. I think there's a slim chance he can, based off of having done it, given the opportunity. It doesn't seem to be going away. It is sporadic at times. You know what I mean? Sometimes Tibbs goes with his guts from game to game. You know what I mean? So somebody may play more minutes this game. He may not go back to them the next game. So I think it's gonna be tough for him to consistently do that unless there are some changes made and the opportunity for him to do that is more often. But RJ not closing a game out, that's not gonna happen uh
No.
8 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? Like that might happen 2 out of 10 times. It might only happen 1 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? But I do think it's encouraging for him to see that he can do these things. I think it would be more encouraging if he has one of these games in a win. I think that's when it really then we might see him. Then something might click for him. You know what I mean? I don't know if it clicks in a loss. He's not gonna get like he's getting shine. He's getting people are talking about it, but it's kind of like behind the scenes. It's in a loss. Let him have a performance like this in a win, and that's what I want to see what it does for his confidence, for his I don't want to say motor. That's the wrong word, but for his confidence, I'll say for his confidence.
And can I alley oop to alley oop to you, Steph? And just and piggyback on that tone. Yeah, well, that's about him. But what about the coach? What does this say for the coach, for his willingness to say, you know what, RJ, it don't look like you really got it. Cam got it today. I'm gonna be flexible and not be into this box that everyone claims that I'm in all the time, and I'm gonna give Cam a shot. Like, what does that say for the coach?
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into Tibbs in that next section. Let me just read this super chat. Kiorian James or Corion James. Y'all keep saying that we don't have a star, but I think we do in JB. If he didn't have to sacrifice in being a point guard, you would see that more. He's playing with RJ and Randle. Y'all wanted DM, but JB killed him single-handedly. Well, to the last part, I'll say, just because you have a better game or a better series than someone doesn't mean you're a better player. Is what I will say to that. And it remains to be seen if Brunson is a star. I'm not betting on that. I think he's a really, really good point guard. And I think if you construct the roster in such a way, like Marcus Smart, like where you have two superstars and what you really need him to do is just kind of play off of them, that type of stuff, I think he would be even better. As far as him being a star, I don't see that. And I'm also a little concerned when we play the good teams, how they seem to take him out of the game just a little bit.
Yeah. Go back to that.
Anybody else want to comment on
that?
that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Go back to that.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the generous contribution, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that. Here's the thing about Jalen Brunson about a star. He's not a star yet. So you're projecting. You're anticipating that he will be a star. It doesn't defeat our argument that at the present moment in time, we don't have one.
Right. Yeah. And I was on the Brunson train 2 years before he even got here. But he's not that. All right. Before we get into Tibbs, impressions on our top 3 players so far this season. We kind of talked about Randle. Impressions of Brunson, 12 games. RJ, 12 games. DJ Shuttle, D, and then if Tony Crow returns.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I won't put it in any particular order because no one has been has performed so well that I could put them at number one. Nobody's been that good. They don't deserve to be in that position of they've been the best. But if I want to put three, in no particular order, I would have to put Randle, Brunson, and RJ, our top three, aka big three. I'd have to put it at them. I mean, they've done the most for the most amount of games, but there's still a bit to be desired on all those guys.
Okay. D, your impressions on them on this early season?
Of who exactly?
Any one of them or all of them?
Of anybody on our roster?
No, the top three players.
Okay, got
Just
you.
what your
Brunson.
impressions.
Yeah, no problem. Jalen Brunson came in as advertised. Efficient guy, efficient for the field, great assist to turnover ratio, has always existed throughout his career, even in Villanova. Shout out to J-Rod. Did a good job with those guys. He has a pit bull to him. He leads his team in charges. I'll tell you the exact number right now. Jalen Brunson has 16 charges on this team. Maybe a little bit less. Could have been an elbow or two in there. But it's about 14 or 15 charges he leads on his team. He has no problem sacrificing his body. He has no problem getting into the thick of the offense, clogging the lane and stuff like that, getting into those lanes, sacrificing his body. You got to love those type of things, especially from the smallest guy on the team. But this was something that I warned in July. He's a defensive liability. And it's hard enough, especially in the NBA, to hide one guy as the Atlanta Hawks.
Right.
But now you got to hide 2 or 3 guys. That's a big problem. So I don't think we get to see the best version of Brunson because it's just under the circumstances. It's fit, it's squares going into round pegs, stuff of that nature. As far as RJ Barrett, RJ's been up and down. And you look at the numbers. I mean, RJ has not really had a bad season as far as offensively. If I'll go to his numbers right now, he is at 19 a game, 43% for the field, which is an uptick from last year. He's at 30% from 3, which is worse than last year. But he's at 5.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers. It doesn't seem bad. But the issue is that he can't play a look at defense. And it takes away from what he could provide offensively because he's not bringing it on both sides of the floor on a night-to-night basis. As far as Julius Randle is a guy that he's going to get his numbers. And this has been the case ever since that he's joined New York. Even in the season in which he struggled most, which was his first season with us, his numbers didn't look bad. The issue with Randle is that when you insert a guy like Randle, can he affect winning? Can there be a kinetic synergy amongst the team that rallies around one of their better players? And I think Randle, for me at least, and I do expect pushback, that hasn't really fit the bill as far as that's concerned, especially on a consistent basis. So to your question, I think your question was my evaluation of them, right?
Impressions,
right.
evaluations of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to get the best out that you could get from these guys. The reality of the situation is that I'm just throwing a name out there. If you put a guy like Giannis there, right? I'm just saying because he's a star. These guys' games look completely different now because there's not as much ball usage. They have certain spots of the floor in which they're effective. Maybe the defense is not as much because a guy like Giannis could take all the best players, you see? Right. So I think it's a matter of time and space and also fit as to the results of these players. But I think that it's very imperative that if this front office is looking to use their draft picks in order to get something of a star type of nature, they better do it very soon because I don't think the caliber of these type of players on this roster are going to be able to be held up in order for you to have your 45, 46, 48 wins in order to get your playoff berth to make noise in the playoffs.
And not just that. we think holding on to players that their value goes up, your value can decline as well. So that's another reason to move um, sooner than later. And in terms of a trade, and then Tony, I'll let you go. I know Tony likes SGA, and I do too. But SGA, it doesn't have the cachet that's going to make Randle play different. If you're keeping Randle on this team, you're going to have to bring in somebody with some cachet where he knows I need to acquiesce to this guy, unless you're moving him out in the SGA trade, which would be fine as well. But Tony, your thoughts
Well,
on
let me comment on what you just said, because
yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit
absolutely.
earlier I thought you and I both agreed that Randall would fall in line. So do you
With a
think
star.
but you don't think that the talent or the output will show improve over the cachet? You know what I mean? Like, because
I
the cachet is missing with SGA, because he hasn't taken these young guys to the playoffs. You know what I
mhm.
mean? He hasn't It hasn't shown in that aspect. But if you're looking at his numbers and what he does, and ability, I think players will recognize that. Players will see that. You know what I mean? They look at players big more than just the way they're perceived.
Yeah, I get you. I just see Randall with a huge ego, or somebody who has a number one mentality, but not a number one game.
Mm.
And I see him I can only see him acquiescing to, and I'm not saying any of these guys is coming to the Knicks.
Mm.
Butler, because they'll fight.
Mm.
Giannis, I think even Donovan Mitchell, where he can look and be like, yo, this guy's better than me. He's had some success in this league. You know, I don't know if he's gonna look at SGA, who's on the come up and a
Mhm.
budding star. I don't have any. I agree with you, and have that same feeling. You know,
I mean,
um,
I questioned the same thing with Brunson. So I get where you're coming
yeah,
from.
yeah.
I just
But it's
think
possible. It's
I think
possible.
the talent is gonna tell you who's number one before anything. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of
The
your
talent
feelings.
will tell you. But in order to, when you accept it, you fall into place. When you don't accept it, you still trying to do the
I,
things you were doing
I,
before.
I agree, and I also think he would. I think he's been put in that
Okay.
role of as number one, so he has to act the part. If you know what I mean, like, you can't be put in the role and not act the part, because you'll have no success. You know what I mean? We've seen him have success in the role. We've also seen him falter in the role, but you know what I mean. Both times that was his role. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's like I don't think he's been in a position where that wasn't his role and he was trying to make it his role. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I know. I'm just projecting.
No,
I'm
I hear
just
you,
saying.
because
In my opinion, it would need to be a
but
strong person for him to be like,
To
because
acquiesce fully.
to
all
the
right,
same point though, I think that's where some of my concern with Cam would be. Like, I know a lot of us want him to kind of go out and take it. I don't know if him doing that is going to make the team better. You know what I mean? Like sometimes what the team needs may not be the thing that puts you at your best performance level, or your greatest role.
I
So
think
it's
a
a
great
catch 22.
I think a great comparison here would be like a Westbrook LeBron type of thing. You know, Westbrook, he does Westbrook. He performs better. The team doesn't do anything. You know, you got a guy like LeBron James, even at this stage in his career, who's still, I mean, well, let's just say for argument's sake, a better player than Westbrook is. You would think Westbrook would come in and fall in line. Westbrook's coming in to do Westbrook. You know, so sometimes, that's just how the DNA and how people are made. And I think that
Well,
Randall is kind of, I think Randall's kind of special in that regard. And
ah,
it's hard for
my,
me to see, it's hard for me to see too many players coming in here and Randall not doing Randall.
my pushback would
And
be
that's on the front office then
my
too.
pushback would be Westbrook has been Westbrook his whole career, and that's the difference. He's been who he was his whole career. Now he's being asked to adjust. Randall was not that his whole career. You know what I mean? He's being placed in different. He's been in different roles throughout his career. So I think that's why I say it's more of a. Let's say this: it's more of a chance for him to readjust than a guy like Westbrook, who's been that guy throughout his career. You know, standing next to a KD, he still felt like I was that guy. You know what I mean? So I think that's the main difference between those arguments. I think Randall could readjust. I don't think he's. You know what I mean? He played with AD. He wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, I'm the guy next to AD. You know what I mean? He's been in those roles where he knew his spot. He knew his
He was
position.
on a come up in those roles though.
Right.
It's
He
very
came off the
different.
bench, Tony.
I agree, but that's why I'm saying it's different from a guy like a Westbrook or a guy like a LeBron or one of these stars who was stars from the jump, who was, you know what I mean, who would, not saying it was given to them, but if you come in as a rookie and you're a starter, and you come in as a rookie and you're the go-to guy, and that's who you are throughout your career, 5 years in, 6 years in, it's going to be a lot harder for that guy to come into a new another situation and give up that position, or learn how to be the number three. Randall went from being maybe number six, number eight, and he's worked his way into it. So I think that's where it differs. But and you could be right. I could be right. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is a
I mean,
concern,
it's
but
a concern.
I don't know if it's a definitive, like we know he's not good, like,
Oh
because
no,
that
no, no, no.
people've argued that before. He don't want to give up that, that was the argument. He don't want to give it up to RJ. Like,
But here's the thing, guys. Maybe we could see this at a different perspective. Like, if you guys are considering a rejoicing of SGA and Randall, keep something in mind. Randall's plus minus per 100 per possessions. I mean, I'm sorry, per 100 possessions this year is a minus 9.9 on and off. That is the worst next to Evan Fournier. And on court, he is worse next to Evan Fournier again at a minus 4.6. Okay. He has on turnovers, he is third on the team on bad passes. He's lost the ball on turnovers most on this team with 15. Nobody's even close to him at second. And he also leads the team in offensive fouls. And plus all the other things that we talked about. So my question is that if I was to bring an SGA in here, right, and I was to give it the draft capital, if I was to give up player assets in order to do that, and knowing that he's only 24 years old, would it be just smarter just to build with SGA and rebuild around that, as opposed to having to force him and Randall have to coexist and play together, knowing that you haven't had a good track record with that?
Well, I would say that I would not. I would probably build around SGA. But I think if there was another all-star, I think those numbers you're talking about would be different for RJ, for Randall, because his usage would be down. I just don't think with SGA he's going to play any different. I just don't see him accepting this young guy. And I hear what you're saying, Tony. He's been in the sixth role and the second role. But once you become a number one, it's kind of hard to go back to being number six. You know what I mean? So I think I would, for SGA, probably have to I don't like that. I like having SGA with a pit bull power forward. I'm just not sure Randall would be willing to play off of him. That's all. I don't think he would be willing to play off of him. maybe a Bradley. I'm not advocating for Bradley Beal at all, but somebody who's had some success in this league around his same age, maybe you have a better chance of him acquiescing. I don't know.
I,
I
I
could be
think
wrong.
I think you're right about that. I think he would definitely acquiesce more to Beal than SGA. I just feel like once the ball is on the court, you have no choice. You know what I mean? Like, is he gonna be? Yeah, I just think once the ball's on the court, he'll figure it out. And if not, move him.
Got
You
a
know what I
lot of
mean?
faith, Tony.
I'm not opposed to keeping him either. Like, I'm not saying pair him up. If we can make another move for Randle and it makes us better and it's a better fit, absolutely do it. I just don't think you have to move Randle if you do. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I think it could work, or it's
Okay.
worth a try to see.
Right.
Is there a world where we can trade Randall and get better?
I mean,
Yeah.
some fans argue just trading Randall will make us better. I mean, that was the narrative last year, and I hated it. That's why, I'm labeled as a Randall defender, because it's not like I'm like, don't move him. I'm saying don't move him don't get rid of 2010 and 5 without and expect that, no disrespect to Obi, he's gonna come in and give you that same 2010 and 5, or have that same type of impact on the game, demanding double teams and things of that nature that changes the dynamic. You know what I mean? Randall change, believe it or not, whether you want to credit him for the assist or not, but he makes the game easier for other guys on the court when he plays the right way. I'll say that.
Because of his gravity. I get
Yeah.
it. I get it. Let me just this super chat. Shout out to Josh, aka Uncle Fulio, for the super chat. You have to move RJ or Randall because they do not fit well together. I agree with that. Or you trade for a wing that can hit the three exceptionally well to put next to them. We have to hope the front office sees the same thing. Yeah, don't get me started with the front office signed Randall, turned around and signed RJ. They watched them play 2-3 seasons together. All right.
You know who else they signed?
Who's that?
Tibbs.
Yeah. It's not even that they signed him. I think they signed him not thinking this was going to be a rebuild. They signed him because they thought they would be able to get the players that they needed to get to go to the playoffs. But when that didn't happen, they doubled down in the sense of not letting him go and move in a different direction.
Well, I was just trying to give you the assist to, you know what I mean?
To
For-
as a
for-
segue into okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, so let's talk about Tibbs. And shout out to Knicks Film School for their newsletter. I appreciate them. But I want to talk about Tibbs. These are the things that gets a coach fired. Shout out to Knicks Film School anyway. Over the last 12 games, the Knicks blew a 23-point home lead to the Hawks, gave up a franchise record 27 threes to the Celtics, were beat by 27 by a Knicks team that was mired in controversy, gave up the most points in regulation in nearly 43 years, and that was to OKC. The wins that they have had came against a Piston team with the worst net defensive rating in basketball, a Sixers team missing their two best player, a Wolf team in crisis of their own. The Philly game, we had to work to close out. We had to work to close out that game. Detroit came within 4 in the fourth quarter, right?
Hornets.
In the second game. And New York has only had one victory over a team ranked higher than 20th in net rating. These are the sorts of things that get a coach fired. Now, Tibbs was already on the hot seat for some. Some thought he was on the hot seat. Is he on a hotter seat? Do you feel like it's his time to go? What's your thought on Tibbs? And is he one of the changes that needs to be made to right this ship? And I don't think any of us agree that it's all his fault. But
My
is he one of the changes that need to be made to right this ship?
the only way right now I'm saying go ahead and make that move is one of two things. If you feel like Johnny Bryant is in place to take on the role and it's not an interim position. You know what I mean? Like you ready to give him the keys and give him a contract. If you're not, if you're not, or you have the guy in place that you know is coming in immediately and is going to be under contract.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing an interim role, no, not at all. It's not the time to do it right out the season. You know what I mean? Give yourself more evidence, whether it's one way or the other, to tell you he's not the guy. You know, we fall into the lottery, or hey, he rightened the ship by the end of the year. The defense got better by the end of the year, like things that we've actually witnessed from him before. So I unless you have the guy in place to succeed him, and you giving him the contract, it makes no sense to go with an intern coach or bring somebody in that for the year, which I don't think they'll do that. I think it'll be either intern, which I say no. If you know Johnny's the guy, then do it. If not, you might as well wait.
To the off season.
Yeah, because sometimes you can fire a coach and it propels the team, and then it's false advertisement, if you will. You know what I mean? Where you think this interim guy actually righting the ship when it may have just been the guys coming together, and that might change it for a year, but that's not gonna, you know what I mean? That doesn't prove anything for that in particular coach. Now you got a decision: do we give a guy a contract based off of success that may not have been of his doing? It may have just been the guys coming together because they
coach got fired.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Welcome, Josh. Before I get to him, welcome to the show. The next time I just asked if you let you in. I'm trying to control the flow of the show. I get it. It's cool. It's cool.
My apologies.
Yeah, that's fine. But welcome to the show. I'm glad that you're joining us. We got an ace panel here tonight to talk about these issues. Let's go to DJ Shuttle, D's World of Hoops, then Josh, the controversy, and
Yo,
yeah.
You're wilding.
Do you think
you're wilding if you're talking about firing the coach and the coach is in the hot seat? You're really wilding. Like,
okay, all right.
You
give us your points.
You thought, if you are reasonable, you thought that this was around a 500 team. That's what the team is, and I don't know.
But the how doesn't give you poise.
Yo, yeah, the how concerns me. The how concerns me some. The Atlanta loss more than any loss. That's the one that concerns me. But I really felt like I brought Jalen Brunson in here to handle that. And as a former player, I can't rely on the coach to do everything. I have to stop some of the bleeding on my own, and the players have to take some ownership and accountability. Taking a 25-point lead and turning it into a 17-point deficit. Players got to take some responsibility. And there seems to be a lot of not looking at the inefficiency of the players and just going directly to the coach. It's only 12 games in. Is it 13 games in? Me, when I coached, right, don't get me wrong, I wanted to win every game, but I always looked towards the end of the season. I always looked at what can I do, whether it's practice, rotations, some games I'll be like, all right, well, I know we might lose this game, but the only way we're going to be better at playing a zone is by having times where we play a zone, even if we lose the game. But it's about the learning and the education along the way. So for me, I can't be so hyped after the team is one game under 500 for a team I expected to be at 500. Is there a bad loss here or there? Yes, absolutely. Do I think some of these wins are against teams that are trash, that won't be in the playoffs? And there might be some trouble as you play more formidable opponents? Yes, that's definitely a concern. I'm looking forward to see how that shakes out. But Tibbs has proven to me that he's kind of like a guy that gets the team better as the season goes along. He's not one of these guys that are fast out the gate. He's not that kind of guy. He learns his guys, he develops, and they grow as the season goes. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see how he could be in the hot seat at all. Look at his roster. Are you kidding?
All right, D. And then we'll go to Josh.
Yeah. I think Tibbs has set himself up to be a perfect scapegoat this year because, listen, I wasn't for the Tibbs signing, but this ain't Tibbs' fault. I'm talking about primarily. Primarily, I'm looking at the front office. They were the chess players that designed the chess pieces and orchestrated those pieces to be moved accordingly to how they want it and their vision. It's on them. So Tibbs will be the scapegoat for now. But that's not resolving. We still got roster construction issues. We still have issues of the fact that we were still in player acquisition mode and you didn't get a draft pick last year because you had to dump certain contracts that you locked yourself into. Kemba Walker, Alec Burke, Norris Noel, etc. So primarily I would put the onus on the front office, but Tibbs would be a good scapegoat as to, especially if this road trip goes the way that people are predicting it to be. I think Tibbs his head will be on a stick. They'll call for him and they'll all rejoice if he gets removed and stuff of that nature. And the next guy gets in and you still have guys on his team that can't contain the basketball. You still have guys on his team that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, that can't help or recover. That guys that still can't close out. Guys don't know how to communicate simply on switches. What are they doing every practice? Every practice, that's what you build on. You build on that. If your defense is orchestrated towards a certain way, towards that team you're playing that night, say, for example, it's Golden State and they run a lot of split screen action, you have to discuss your rotations, your switches, and how you're going to do that and how you're orchestrating that. They look lost. On transition, they look lost. At least once or twice a game, I see a guy lost completely in transition of where he has to be and what guy he has. So I think these are extenuating issues that actually go beyond the coach, because if I install a Johnny Bryant or if I install a Daddy Brunson in there, I still think that whatever coach comes in next to that is still going to have to take the toll of those issues to get this team right as far as being able to communicate and to play within the team scheme or whichever they designed it to be. So Tibbs will be the scapegoat. It's not totally his fault. He does have some onus because of who he is, but the front office knew who he was. They knew they had all these draft picks of these young guys in there, and you brought in a guy knowing the fact that he will play Game 7 in a preseason game, which he did before in years prior. Julius Randle did play 37 minutes, 38 minutes in 2 of the preseason games last season. It's just Tibbs. It's just who he is. He'll play Evan Fournier 20 minutes last night instead of playing Quentin Grimes. Why? Because it's just Tibbs. It's just who he is. I already know who he is. I'm concerned about the guy that let the dog off the leash, and that's the front office. So that's that.
Yeah, before I get to Josh, I want to say, if Johnny Bryant comes in, or whoever, Brunson, whoever they choose, and doesn't do well, the spotlight then goes on the front office.
Bingo.
It goes on the front office because now you got rid of Tibbs, you brought in this other, and it's the same thing, right? So they better be sure when they make this change that this guy can do it, because the spotlight is going to turn on them. Josh?
First of all, my apologies, Queen. I just was very captivated by this conversation. I know I sent the super chat earlier.
I was going to get you in. I was on the mic.
I'm supposed to be writing a paper right now that I will get done, but I definitely had to give my 2 cents on this conversation because I think it's very, very important. First thing I'll say, you asked the question, can another coach come in here or should the front office bring in another coach here to right the ship? Right what ship? That's the question I have.
Just asking the questions.
No, I get it. I get it. But I mean, the Knicks, they're 1 game under 500. If you know, for a fan base, if you thought this team was going to be anything more than mediocre, I think you were naive about that. Not saying anyone here said that, but that's just extremely naive. And you say the how. Every season we ask ourselves and talk about the how. Right? Last season it was we couldn't close out games. We had leads and we couldn't close the games out. We got a point guard in. The Knicks have given up. Their defense has gotten worse now, right? So it's always going to be the how when it comes to this fan base because the anxiety takes over and, you think this team was going to be better than what they are, but they're not. I agree that this roster is not built to win now, right? I don't think a small move would help this team to win now or anything like that. So getting rid of Tibbs, to me, doesn't solve the problem for this season. Now, if you're talking about at the end of the season, making the change and going in a different direction, having someone, because the Knicks have 4 contracts that are now 4-year deals. You're talking about Mitch, you're talking about Jalen Brunson, you're talking about Randle, you're talking about RJ. That's the core that this front office is going to proceed forward with, right? I can't say that I'm completely happy about that, but that's the core that they've chosen, and their contracts all kick in and as the extension start this year. So now they're on the clock. Right. So if you don't feel like Tibbs is going to be the right person moving forward after this season, then I would say, okay, you go ahead and make that move at the end of the season. But to fire him now and during the course of this season in order to do what exactly? Like to win more games, the Knicks are still going to be a mediocre team. We don't have that superstar. Right. So that's where I'm at with that. If you're going to fire Tibbs, I say do it at the end of the season, unless the Knicks are extremely bad and they go back to the lottery and they're, we're talking 10 games under 500 or what have you. In regards to the front office, I do agree, Queen. If they fire Tibbs, that's their guy who they bought in. They're on the clock once they fire Tibbs. They know that. They're on the clock, right? The Knicks and a lot of the fans accepted the fact that the Knicks didn't want to go out and get a superstar, right? So they were content with the rebuild. Let us rebuild. There's nothing to be mad over then. What are you mad about? If you're accepting the rebuild and you're accepting that this team is going to be mediocre because you're looking at the future, why are you firing Tibbs for? It makes no sense at all to do that, particularly during the course of the season. So I don't agree with a lot of the moves that Tibbs makes. I think he's going to be the first person on the chopping block. I do agree, D, that he's going to be the first person on the chopping block. But what are you firing him for at this point in the season when the Knicks are 1 game under 500? What is your goal? You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand it at this point.
And I could understand. Okay, I'm sorry, Steph.
The only thing I would say to that is if you have a sense that he's losing the locker room, if you have a sense that he's losing the team, they're not tuning him out, they're not playing for him, then you might need to make a move sooner than you would.
You mean if they are tuning him out, not if they're not.
If they are tuning him out, right?
Yeah. And I was going to say something like that. I could see where the fandom is coming from, where they do want to see a change because the team looks like they're not responding. You just gave up 145 points last game at home at that matinee game. There's been about 3 or 4 times this year, teams have shot over 50% for the field and over 45% from 3. And we're very young into the season. It's infantile right now. So I can see where people are coming from with that. And they're saying, well, hey, make this change here, and then we'll see what happens with the teams now. Maybe they go ahead and react differently to a different voice, a different personality, a different energy, and stuff of that nature. I think, unfortunately, for the fans is that you have to understand that foundationally, there's certain things that are messed up as far as how this team is constructed, that no matter what you bring in, you're still going to have to get out all the grit and grind of that roster construction that was done in order to get a formidable product that you guys are looking for.
Right. But D, to your point, I mean, the Knicks are not getting blown out in these games. Brooklyn was the only game that they actually got blown out in, right? The Knicks are not getting blown out. These games are close, right? They come down to the end. The Knicks have little leads here and there. They're not getting blown out, and they're not losing leads. So I don't think that leads into the mindset of the players tuning him out. And the Knicks scored 130-something points. Like, when's the last time we've seen that happen, right? So I don't think the Knicks are completely tuning him out. I think that's just something from the fan base because they want to see him gone. The second part about that is I agree with you. The roster construction is not where it needs to be. right? I think there's still some improvements they need to make. They still need to get a superstar, but it's really early. And the fact that you have 4 contracts that you can sign that are going to be here for the next 4 years at least, I say at least let that play out a little bit before we talk about removing the front office, right? I think that needs a little bit more time to play itself out. Maybe they trade Randle, maybe they trade RJ, right? And next year or the year after that or something like that. And then at that point, we can really see what they've done. But you're talking about 3 years into a front office. To me, like I told Steph the last time, too early for a front office to make moves and remove a front office. The coach, a little bit of a different story, but the front office, I'm willing to give them just a little bit more time.
Yeah, I've seen enough. But this is what I will this is what I will say though, because you brought up a point that just I hadn't thought of before. Are we in a rebuild? We in a rebuild, and as a front office, you decide that you rebuilding around Randle, RJ, Mitch, and Brunson. Like, that just hit home. Like, that's who you chose to be your core and be all in. You got $350 something million, maybe even 400 million in these guys. Where is that core taking you?
I don't think that's all in, though. I think that's where we disagree. I don't think that's all in. I think, yeah, they have them under contract long term, so you can make that argument. But the Knicks are still one of the lowest payrolls in the NBA. They're not like Golden State, where they're like at the salary cap, at the luxury tax. They have ability to make moves and make trades with the amount of assets plus the contracts that they do have. 2 years ago, when Leon Rose first took over, those contracts were expiring at the end of that year when they made the 4th seed. So they didn't have much room to work with. They had picks, but they didn't have money to move. They had the 7 players were expiring contracts. They had to fill out the roster. So I think this is a little bit different. You have contracts that you could be able to move. They're not albatross contracts, Randle, RJ, Brunson, or Mitch. So
they're not albatross.
I agree with you.
It depends on how they play. It could be, depending on how they play.
But so far they haven't underachieved as far as their contracts are concerned. So again, the Knicks front office has room to operate. I'm willing to give that a little bit more time. However, when it comes to Tibbs, I think if they feel like he's not the right person for the job, if they feel like the Knicks can be playing better with the roster they have, and I certainly do, I think then you can start looking at moving on from Tibbs, despite having a roster that is going to be mediocre anyway. And I'm talking to the fans specifically who were naive to think that the Knicks were going to be a 6th seed or anywhere close to that. The Knicks don't have the roster to do that, not particularly in this Eastern Conference. So that's where I was coming from with that. I think, again, Tibbs is going to be a scapegoat here. But as far as the front office is concerned, and that's naturally how it goes anyway, right? The coach gets fired before the GM and the front office. That's how it happens anyway. So that's just how I'm looking at that. And the Knicks, they got to play better for sure.
When did this team become when did it become a rebuild? Like a rebuild is starting over, starting from scratch. We never did that. Like the goal of this front office, this coach has always been to at least make the playoffs. And to me, when you're rebuilding, you're going young with the young guys you have. You try to acquire more young guys. You know that it's a process from not just becoming a contender, but it's a process to even becoming a playoff team. I don't know if this front office, that was the goal where.
But they're also not all in either. So they're kind of a tweener, kind of in between. Right. Well, but they have the ability to proceed forward though. Like typically teams that have these contracts, they don't have ability to make moves. Like they're very stuck in what they can do. They add a piece here and there, a small move, like you said. But this team still has the ability with the amount of assets that they have, roster construction wise, to be able to proceed forward. That's why I think it's leaning more towards a rebuild than towards an all-in type of scenario, because they're not spending money. The Knicks are not.
But your idea of a rebuild is very different than most people's idea of a rebuild.
I understand. Yep.
Rebuild is young rebuild Rebuild is not Randle, RJ, Mitch, and Brunson. Like that's not a rebuild. That's
the latter 3 are 25 and under, by the way. But
okay, but that's saying we're trying to make the playoffs. We're trying at some point to be championship contending. We're scouring the league, and at some point we're gonna make our move. and get somebody that's going to take this roster to another level. That's not how I understand
Well,
rebuild.
Real quick, I think
Understand.
we're closer to going all in than we are to rebuilding. Just based off of the trends and what we the position we in with the draft picks, with the contracts that are movable, that aren't, would you call it, arbitrage contracts? You know what I mean? Like all these contracts are movable from the ones we like to the ones we don't like. They're all movable contracts. Put that together with the draft capital that we have, I think the mindset of the front office is we're closer to going all in than we are to rebuilding. Like I think for this front office to say we're rebuilding, it's going to be a change of the front office. It's not going to be them. Their MO from coming here was trying to remain competitive and move toward the goal of contention. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying they've done that. I'm not saying
which
they've
I think
done
they're
that.
doing. Which I think they're doing. I can't say I'm confident in that, but I think that's what they're thinking. I believe them when they say that. Do I agree with how they're going about it? No, but I think that's exactly what they're doing. And all the fans that are coming at me in the chat right now, y'all agree with that. Oh, that we don't need it. Oh, the Knicks don't need Donovan Mitchell. We're giving up too much for him. So what happened to that? Don't come at me with the energy. Y'all were the ones saying that. When I was the one, myself, Queen, and Sam, let's go out and get Donovan Mitchell. So
let me say this to that though, real quick,
and take that small step back if need be, but get them in the building.
Yes.
and that was, I think that was the biggest pushback with Mitchell. I think most people wanted Mitchell. I think the confusion was, number one, what's the cost going to be, and us all acknowledging that he wasn't a final piece. So if the
Nobody
cost is gonna,
is. You bring in Giannis, he's not going to be a final piece.
Correct.
but I think the biggest issue is the cost of getting him going to prevent us from actually getting the final piece moving forward.
You got to get
That's
that
going
piece
to be
first,
with
though.
anybody you get,
Right.
Tony. With Giannis, anybody you bring in, you're going to have a hard time building. You're going to have less assets.
All I'm saying is most people, even if they had concerns, most people still wanted Donovan Mitchell. That's all I'm saying. I don't think there
some
was a
people
big.
didn't want him. Didn't think he was a star.
Mm-hmm.
I think the majority of the fan base wanted him, and the biggest concern was what is it going to cost?
Yeah, and then there was
Tony,
so
when
much.
you said that the Knicks are closer to all in, if they were closer to all in, they would have made the Donovan Mitchell trade. That's why I think they're more closer than the rebuild than an all in type of move.
But they're still name aside, Donovan Mitchell in particular aside, they're still in position to do it. So that's why I say they're closer to it than away from it. You know what I mean? They're not in a position where they can't go that direction. They can't make the big move. If you know what I mean, if somebody puts something out there.
Agreed.
Yeah. And with that trade, just quickly, I mean, there was speculation and the rumors, all the talk. It was 6 first-round picks, 7 first-round picks. I mean, when you talk about that many picks, to say a team's not all in because they don't want to give up 6 first-round picks, I think that's a stretch.
But
it's speculation.
With all due respect,
the speculation.
In the beginning, those were the rumors. Once KD wasn't traded, remember, people thought with the Gobert trade, Utah thought, well, we got this for Gobert. This is what we're going to get for Donovan Mitchell. When Brooklyn wasn't able to get what they wanted for KD, that reset the market. And all of those early trade proposals came back down to earth, which was still a little high for some Knicks players, 3 unprotected, and and some players. But listen, it's neither here nor there at this point. This is where we are. We're gonna have to work our way from here.
But solutions, right? We talked about this earlier, Steph, on my show, where we have to find solutions to certain things. Here's one that I think that we got to try to work out together as a fandom. I understand, and I hear you, Josh, that the contracts are friendly, and they are. If Julius Randle plays at a certain level, right, and they decide, hey, look, listen, we're going to move in a different direction, you could get assets back for Randle. But if Randle is not playing up to par to a certain level, as you guys did experience this summer through the rumors, about the fact that, for example, LA wasn't interested because he was in the first year of his contract. Right. So that means that his star power or his productivity did not grab the LA Lakers enough to say, you know what, we'll get off this Westbrook contract and we'll go ahead and we'll try to shoot for the stars with Julius Randle and then pull that weight. And I think Evan Fournier falls under that same category where it's like, as Evan's making 17, 18 this year. So he doesn't pull in the weight of that contract, which you're right, is not too expensive, but also a team is not willing just to take it on, especially that he has another year left for that 17 and then the other 18 or 19, whatever it is for the next
issue
year.
with the Lakers is the Lakers only have 2 future first-round picks that they could be able to trade. They don't have any assets to really give. They had the 2 in 2027 and 2029, but I think that specific team, they don't have those assets. Now, we're talking about someone else that has next year, the year after, first-round picks. I think that would have been a little bit different. What made the Lakers an interesting trade partners because they had Westbrook and they were trying to get off of his money. Right. So I think I agree with you, but I just think the Lakers are not the best example because the Lakers did not specifically have the assets in order to do it. I think some teams will be willing to trade for Randle, give up some assets if they're all in. I just think the Lakers were specifically that team.
So I'll bring a better example then. The whole league was not interested in Julius Randle.
That was that wasn't based off production. That was based off his attitude. That was based off off-court situation, off-court things more than
whatever it was.
You're 100% right. But and I'm getting to that stuff exactly. Whatever it was, it's still people are not willing to pay to take in that contract and then give you stuff back in return for it.
Particularly assets. I agree. I agree with that.
I think that's unfair to base that off of what already happened and say that's going to continue in the future. If the attitude seems to be good, if the good teammate tends to turn around, the value and the people willing to trade for him, I think that changes dramatically. So I think you're right that's or I think the reason he was deemed untradeable was based off of not his production last year, but based off his off the court.
I don't think D was saying that. He's saying whatever it was, still no one was willing to take the contract. But Tony, I agree with you. In 2 years,
but moving forward,
I agree with you on that. In 2 years from now,
that's all I'm saying.
Or next year or 2 years from now, I think Randle will be much more attractive because his contract will be coming to an end. I think the contract is really what it was, not necessarily how he acted on the court or the production or lack thereof, but the contract because it's just starting, right? And I think no one's really going to go all in for that contract specifically, right? No matter what it was.
And here's the thing: if he's untradeable moving forward, then at that point we gotta live with it, right?
Like an albatross. That is an example of an albatross at that point.
And that's what
right. But this is what I got from Dee's point. You can't just look at how much a player is getting per year and say, oh, this is a tradable contract. It might be a tradable contract, but there's more to the trade than just the money. Mm-hmm. It's the player as well. Right. So Randle, Fournier, Mitch, RJ may have a tradable contract, but if they decline in value in terms of how they play over the next few years, who's trading for them, even with this so-called tradable contract? So there's two parts to having a tradable contract.
Do you think they'll decline?
Excuse me?
Do you think that they will decline over the next couple of years or so?
Listen,
I don't think so.
From what I'm seeing from RJ, I'm not right now. I'm not thinking that 2 years from now, he's going to be easy to trade. Maybe. I think the jury is still out. Mitch, 2 years from now, the jury is still out.
What about the new CBA?
The jury is still out.
What about the new CBA, Queen? And I hear what you're saying. You're talking about as far as the player itself. But with the new CBA going up, those contracts will be minuscule relative to what players that are on their same level are going to get. Right?
But so Josh, we're saying forget the money. And even forgetting the money, I mean, I think the money has a huge thing to do with it. But we've seen people deemed untradeable traded. We've seen it. We've seen
Westbrook.
Trade. You had to add assets to it, though.
Again, but it's been done, and
of course.
I still don't think all those trades that happen, whether you had to attach an asset or not attach, like whatever you had to do to get it done. I don't think anybody is pulling a trade off thinking I'm losing this trade. You know what I mean? So there was some value in making the trade, even if you had to attach the pick or at least perspective wise from the organization that made that trade. Whether the fans agreed with it or the fans say, "Oh, why would we do that?" That's a whole different story. But no front office is making a trade saying we're losing this. We're losing this trade, or we're doing this knowing that it's the bad move. You know what I mean? They when they make that decision, they see some value in it. So I mean, I think I don't think any player is untradeable.
We know that, Tone. But if you have to assign an asset to get rid of a player, that's on the front office.
Right. That's not a good trade.
If you got to assign an asset to get off of a player, that was a bad signing by the front
Based
office.
on what the Knicks are trying to do. Based on
but
what they're
it's not-
trying to do. Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I disagree because
Me too.
when we did it this offseason, we had to do that to get Brunson.
No,
We
didn't.
had
But why
to.
were we in that? But why did you have to do that to get Brunson?
Why
why
not
was
save the
Kemba-
draft pick and just get Brunson anyway?
We wouldn't have
There
the
were
money.
other ways to get Brunson. You didn't have to attach a draft pick to Kemba Walker.
Wouldn't be the first
Yeah,
time
but-
this went over the luxury tax.
But we did.
They weren't over the luxury tax, by the way.
Right.
But we didn't have to sign Brunson for the amount of money that we signed him for. All the moves that we made prior to had to be done. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the money to do. And I think once they knew that they couldn't pull off a signing trade because Dallas wasn't going to play ball in that aspect, they had to make that money available to sign him outright. So
I think there
you're
were
right.
other ways, Tony.
You're right that they attached the first round pick, but sometimes you got to
Second
do it. Or the
Was
pick.
it a first round?
Well, it depends on what.
Oh,
what
don't
trade
tell me it
what-
was a first
No,
round.
it depends
pick.
on what trade you're referring to. Because we did trade a first round pick this
For Kemba Walker. With Kemba
So,
Walker, we shipped our lottery pick with it.
Oh.
Yes, that's why we didn't get a lottery pick this year.
well no,
No,
we still had one.
we did
ended
the
up
14th.
trading-
We
we
did
ended
the
up trading
14th
that pick
OKC
too.
for the 3 protected, but then we got another pick somehow and
Charlotte.
and
We got
flipped
Charlotte's
that
pick
to
for next year.
Charlotte's pick, right?
That was Duran, right?
Right.
Correct.
That ended up being Duran, and then we traded.
That's still a lottery pick, though.
But
But they
agreed.
still got one next year. They still have an extra one. They have 2 to 3 next year, depending on where Charlotte finishes, right? And you talking about the Wizards pick and everything like that.
point
So it's
is-
not a
we're
it's not
not-
catastrophic. It's not
No,
catastrophic.
And my point is that
I don't
happens. Sometimes you have to do that. If you're getting a player of value, all right?
Why were we even in that position to begin with?
Right.
The Knicks don't have a treasure of talent that you can blow off a draft, that you can
Nope.
blow off the 14th pick, that you can blow off a Brunson. I mean, I think the Knicks overplayed their hand. You got to continue to bring talent onto this roster.
You
My
don't
point
have
is
the guy.
this: the alternative was keeping Walker and the draft pick. That was the alternative.
Right, and they knew they were going to sign Mitch, so bringing in Durant is a moot point. So that's what I'm saying. And you may not like Mitch, you may like
They
Durant
could have
more
been
than
a
Mitch.
different player. They could have drafted a different player. So I mean, like technically, it's not the player. It's keeping the draft pick, drafting whoever you draft, and having Walker on his team. And then if
For 1 year.
if you're buying him out, then you have the same point as whose fault is that you paying somebody to leave. So I mean, but this happens.
Like $8 million. All right. I just feel like the Knicks had to give up draft assets to cover up a lot of the mistakes that
Correct.
to get off some of the mistakes that they made.
Do you think it was
I'm-
a mistake to re-sign Nerlens Noel? You think that was a mistake?
In
Let me tell you
hindsight,
something.
yes.
Let me tell you something. When the Knicks had that cap money and they came back with the signings that they I did. Because
But
I wasn't
we don't
impressed
know what
with
the alternative was.
But what
Right.
if it
That's
was only
true.
1 year, Steph? Instead
Excuse me?
of the multi-year that they gave him, what if it was just the same 1 year contract they gave him the first year? We would have never had the problem to begin with.
But who's to say the players will take that? They
And they had
Part
to
of-
fill out a
part-
roster.
part-
Seven of
part
the
of-
players were expiring contract. They had to fill out the
And-
roster.
part of the reason I feel like those deals were all good was I felt like it was part of their plan. It's like if this doesn't work, it's a contingency each time. Like Kemba might have been the one. Like I understand the upsetness with Kemba,
Right.
but that was also the biggest risk and the highest reward if it worked out. So you know what I mean? I understood that coming into it. It wasn't like we gave up, you know,
Assets
high,
to get him.
you know, yeah, a lot of things. Even moving on from him, I think the value of what we did. That's the way I look at it. We wouldn't have been able to get Brunson if we didn't pull those moves off the way we did. If there was a way that we could have still got him, the only way we could have still got him if he took less money, Brunson. You know what I mean? But once his value went up,
But the point is that with Burks, Noel, and Kemba, although you didn't have to give up anything to get them, but you had to give up a lot to get rid of them, and that's where the issue falls into play.
I don't consider that a lot.
I don't know if it was a lot though. That's what I'm saying.
Did they give up 6 second-round picks?
Second round. That's not a lot. That's not a lot.
We don't find talent in the second round.
Well, we do, but we still have a lot more. We still have a lot more second round picks. It's not like we're
what are we doing with 6 second round picks at this point?
Right. Are they gonna play on the roster?
Play the acquisition phase because you don't have the guy yet.
Yeah, I think we're missing the point. I'm glad we had those picks, but the fact that we had to use them tells us what we need to know about the front office, in my opinion. But anyway, I want to answer Joseph Chavez. RJ is 22. What do we not understand? We got to stop with the 22. We got to stop with the 21. This is RJ's 4th year in the league. I don't care how old he is. And there's an expectation, and it's still possible that you're going to take another step. So can we please stop with the age thing? Just because somebody is just 22, he still have time to be a star. By this time, you see flashes of stardom, right? SGA came in here and waxed us. And even before this year, you saw flashes. Every now and then, you see flashes. Okay? I mean, come on. Let's start with the 22. RJ is not going to be a star. He's not going to be a superstar, but he's going to be a very good NBA player, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Only 2 guys have popped after year 4 that became stars of this league. Chauncey Billups and Kyle Lowry are the only guys that come to mind. If anybody else
Jimmy Butler, if you want to.
No, but Jimmy was producing third or 4th year. He was producing at a high level.
He was.
But he wasn't a star, and I will argue that RJ is producing at a high level. Like his
But even if we add Jimmy Butler, it's still just 3.
His slow start to the season has seemingly turned around, and this is including last night's game.
Is RJ going to be a star, Tone?
We already discussed that.
No, but okay, that's all we're saying. That's all we're saying.
Pretty much.
That's all we're saying. Yeah. About he's only 22. The sense I was getting from Joseph Chavez, I hope I said that right, was that he's only 22. He still has time. And what I'm saying is
because he's still improving as well. That's where I was getting to. Like, so is he a star now? No. Can he be? I think that's still up in the air. Like even
you
this year.
Money on that?
I mean, there's very few people I put. I'm very strategic on where I.
Thank you. I ain't putting money on that. But he's going to be a very good. There's nothing wrong with 18 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. There's nothing wrong with that. Very good NBA player.
Them last 7 game numbers is looking a lot better than the first 5 from RJ.
It's not the numbers.
And I'm talking
watching the game.
I'm talking about his percentage numbers.
50, I understand.
53% from the field, I believe, and 40 something from 3 in the last 7. I mean,
but you watch the games, Tone, and you gotta see when he's. And it's not just for him, for Randle, for Brunson, for all of our guys. When are they getting those points? When is it? When do they shoot 50%? When do they shoot 40% from 3? Who are they playing? You know,
Detroit.
Yeah,
come on.
When the games don't matter as much against the lesser opponents. And you said you asked the question, Steph. You said whose fault is this? And all I know is that Kevin Knox was drafted 8th. and Shea was drafted, I believe, or Knox was drafted 9th, and SGA was drafted like 11th. And maybe people thought Frank Ntilikina was the future at point guard. And so I'm going to put this all on Frank Ntilikina and Phil Jackson. That's why we had to give up those teams. And
as
that's
sad as it is too, and as low as we are currently, you know, this front office, this coach, this whole regime, you know what I mean? We kind of should be highlighting them and championing them compared to what we've been through over the past 20 years. Like they've
not saying much,
even in their
Correct.
mistakes, they've I mean, I'm just trying to give a little bit of credit where credit's due. Even in their mistakes, they've been the most competent. Even with us questioning a lot of their moves, you know, they've panned out. You know, these were the sports you reference our drafting. You know what I mean? I think we've been extremely well in that area. You know,
we haven't drafted a starter in the 3 years
Right.
they've been here.
I'm saying the players that we've gotten for the value of where we got them, we've been.
I personally think Obi's a starter, so I don't agree with that completely, Queen. But that's a good way to look at it. I think Obi is a starting caliber power forward in the NBA, my opinion.
Okay.
But they already have signed Randle, which I think causes the conflict there.
Oh, it's not really a conflict if the Knicks believe that they can get off of Randle since his contract is so tradable.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
I'm willing to give them time to do that, though. I'm not just gonna.
But if you're gonna do that, Obi, you better make sure those other players can carry the load, because Obi is somebody at this point in his career has to play off of them. Right. So you better hope.
I think the Knicks offense is better without Julius Randle and with Obi in there. My opinion.
The offense is not even the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this year, I don't think the offense.
That's what we're talking about this year. The offense is not the problem.
But again, it's a longer term process. You're talking about building. I think it's a longer term process. Let it play out a little bit, and then we can be able to judge. But this season, I mean, we know what we're going to get this season. Look who we have on the roster, like you said. Let's get that a little bit more.
Your point is the offense is better with Obi, and I'm saying the offense is not a problem. I'm okay with Obi starting. You just better make sure you got high usage guys on the wing that can carry this team so that Obi can play off of those guys. That's all I'm saying. You have to construct the roster a certain way. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, because as bad as Randall's defense has been, Obi's defense definitely is not better. And Randle does get rebounds at a much better clip than Obi does. Obi's so busy leaking out on the break, you know, and yeah, that's a good part of the game, and it works, but
he's better though with staying in there for rebounds as of late.
Yeah.
And he's better defensively, IQ wise. He's better defensively from his IQ perspective than what we've seen the first 2 years he's been in the league.
Yes, his defensive IQ has definitely improved.
Yeah, I mean, he went from like
overall, just the
he went from like a 0 rating on defense to now he's like a 4. So it's not like I mean, like his defense year 1 was horrid. It was like, yo, and all the people was like, yo, why isn't he playing? Put him in the game. Like, yo, do y'all see his defense at all? Like, and his offense wasn't that good. So it's like, yeah, he had to sit, he had to learn, and now his defense is like, all right, he could play. But
listen, Randall's defense is not that much better.
No,
on ball, yes. Off ball,
nah, they both leave a lot to be desired. You know, it's like, you know, it's like 2 peas in a pod in terms of what you get from them. Good offensive players, not good defensive players. So, you know, what can you do?
And as far as the front office drafting well, nothing's popped from that yet. And whether it's because of business restriction, maybe because of role, maybe because of whatever it may be, we can't say yay or nay on that yet. The jury's still out on that. We don't know if they drafted well yet.
Can I ask you guys?
I don't see any stars on this team, and I know there's some people who feel like, how could you say that because you haven't seen them in their full roles? I don't see any even in their limited roles, just the decision making. I just don't see any stars on this. The cream rises to the top, even in limited minutes. You can see, we need to move this guy that's in front of him. This guy is it. I haven't seen that.
But do they have to be stars in order for you to draft well, though?
I don't think so.
That's what we're talking about, though. We're talking about starters, and we're talking
Yeah, you said
about
stars though.
because D was saying we don't know what we have because we haven't seen those guys play. And I'm saying I don't believe we have stars, even if you give them more minutes.
Right. Right. That's your projection, right?
Can I ask you guys a question? And I actually
Anybody could start in this league. So let anybody could start in this league. You look at Detroit, you look at Orlando, anybody can start in this league. Right? So that's not saying much. So you get start and not really be a starting caliber player, right? But you can also be a starting caliber player, but the team has to just be constructed a certain way to get the best out of you. That's all I'm saying.
Big facts.
I want to ask you guys a question. I think everybody's answer on the panel will be the same. I'm interested in what the chat would say. So if y'all want to respond in the chat, just tell me yes or no. I know the Lakers said they had no interest in Randle. I believe they had no interest in giving up their first round picks for Randle. So if would you guys move on from Randle, move on from Fournier to take on the Westbrook contract, knowing that all that becomes available cap money next year?
Absolutely.
Is that how, like, because I see the chat, they saying we defended Randle, etc. So would you not take the draft picks but move on from those contracts and take Westbrook for the year?
Would we have cap space if we did that? How
Yeah,
much
both
cap space would we have?
Talking about the money. It's a money thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Both of those contracts were longer term deals, so all of that would be cap space. We're not over the cap, so all of that would be available cap space to use.
The Knicks aren't over the cap.
They are about like 10 million or something
cap.
like that. But because the money is even, it's a trade that is possible because the money is even.
I understand.
So
how much money would we have in free agency? Would it be?
It gives us 37,
like 37 million or something like that.
37.
30 something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, no, the Knicks are 18.8 million over the cap. The Westbrook contract is at 47 million. So you're looking at 28 million.
Yeah.
Isn't that about what we had this offseason?
I think it's a little less.
We didn't have anything. We had to create that space for Brunson.
Well,
that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, his contract is what, 27, right?
Yeah, Brunson's 27.7 and Hartstein is 7.8. So that's a little closer to 35, close to 36.
And they waived Taj Gibson. So that's 5 that they created with that.
Right. And D Rose is expiring at 14.
Correct.
Right.
So you add that to the 47. We have.
It wouldn't be 47, 28 plus.
Well,
5.
I'm saying if you taking away Rose's contract as well, that would put it right back at the 47.
No, Tony. We're 28. We're 18 over. So 47 minus.
We're 18. We're 18 over, but next year we don't have to have Rose's contract under. So is that
what's
calculated?
Rose's contract?
14.5.
Oh, 14. Okay, 14.
And then Cam Reddish is another expiring contract. I don't want to sign him long term, so you got that that you can worry about. There's multiple ways that Knicks can improve. That's what I'm saying.
Who you signing in the offseason? Who's free agents that the Knicks are signing?
That's the question. Do you do that and then hope and hope we sign somebody, or do you do that and then try to absorb a big contract? You know, if a star becomes available, because there's a window in which you. That's what I'm saying. Like the alternative to moving on are not a sure thing. I rather try to, like, I'm not mad at what they're doing. I'm mad at the results. I'm not mad at them trying to stay competitive while trying to build and stay flexible and be able to be in position to get better as you move forward. In
Right,
that
right.
capacity, I feel like the organization has done a great job. It's just
And
the
to me,
competitive part where,
yeah,
you know what I mean? We had a bad year last year. We're off
right.
to a very rocky start this year. So the results are more of what I'm upset with, less of what
But you
they're
see what they're
doing.
trying to do.
I see what they're
Yeah,
trying to do.
and for
And
some
I
reason,
say that going back, even with the mistakes they made with the Kimbers and the like, all those were rectifiable things that, you know what I mean? It didn't make us say, oh, we did this and now it's gonna affect us for 6 years.
We're
Like
not in a
yeah,
terrible cap situation. We're
that's
not
what
in a
I'm
bad
used
cap
that's what I'm
Yeah.
used to with this organization in the past. So you know what I mean? That's what the whole Knicks and Bruises was about. Like they used to make moves that hurt us 10 years later. That
yeah,
hurt us 5 years later. You know what I mean?
and
Like that we haven't seen from this organization. So that's a plus.
well, now we're set up to be logical, to be rational, to be reasonable, where you want to be. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't want to have a 15-20 win season. I don't want to have that. I don't want to lose so bad for the sake of a quote unquote real rebuild and the chance to get Screw Henderson or Frenchie. I don't want to lose that bad. I don't want to be that bad. I don't want to live through a season like that. Like I've had too many of those seasons. I'd rather be smart. I'd rather be competitive. I'd rather be having a chance to know that I could win every game, every night with real NBA talent, and that anything
That's how
can
you feel
happen.
right
Like
now, though. That you got a chance every night.
I
I
think we
feel
do
like
this season.
I feel like
This
yeah,
season
I
we
feel like
definitely do.
the team has a chance every night, and we're only a Spreewell choker coach away from who knows what happens that you get a player that falls into your lap. But you got to be prepared and you got to be ready with the smart contracts, with assets and draft picks that you can trade, and the team. Like I'd rather be in this position than be tanking and looking like the Houston Rockets right now. I'm sorry. I'll take this.
But
I'll,
DJ
I'll,
Shuttle, the NBA
I'll take
history
this.
throughout the 50 or 60 years has shown you that teams are willing to be bad for some years to know what the greater cause is. And the greater cause is I'll finish, hold on. I got you. Just gonna say. The greater cause is to get stars. And the way that you get stars, we used to have to talk about this earlier. 3 ways to do it: through trade, the free agency, or the draft. Okay. And I'm just saying that it's no coincidence that every dynasty has built through the draft. What you're asking for is a formula that hasn't worked very much in the NBA. And it's
No,
only worked
what,
with a couple of teams.
what formula am I asking for? The team has an army of draft picks to be able to draft, or to be able to make a trade, to be able to get a real top tier player. So
Okay.
this is the formula. Build through the draft. The team is full of draft picks. Mitchell, RJ, IQ, Obi, Grimes. These are all homegrown drafted players, and the team still has smart contracts and draft picks with an array of them to be able to do a deal. So
Not to
to me,
mention, how would we feel about the front office if the Knicks were doing it that way and we were losing every single season? How would we feel
And
about the front office?
that's the only reason I was shaking my head. No,
But
like
that's what we've been
everything.
doing. That's what we've been
We have-
doing.
No,
Losing
no,
and going to the
No,
line.
no,
But
no,
no,
we haven't. The Knicks
but-
are over
but what
500
he's saying-
since the
but
front
what
office
he's-
took over.
and
Mediocre, but they haven't been losing, Steph.
The point
Losing.
is
the reason
point
I
is-
shook my head is I thought when he said the losing, I thought he meant intentionally and tanking, because that's the difference. I agree. We haven't been winning. That's where I'm upset. The results haven't been in there, but everything is set up for that. Like the only difference would be to tank and lose as many games as possible to give you that better percentage of going after that top draft pick. That I do not want. You know what I mean? If we lose, we lose. There's, you know what I mean? That's what was in the cards. I don't think they're losing intentionally. I think they're trying to play it a little bit even. You know what I mean? And I
but
think the
what he is
organizations
saying.
that
Go ahead.
the
I'm sorry.
organizations that do tank and do it intentionally, that is unproven. You know what I mean? Now drafting homegrown draft picks and picking the right guy, a Giannis who wasn't, top 5, and wasn't like they took a chance in that work. You know what I mean? We talk about the Currys. He wasn't top 5, I don't believe, right? He was 6,
No,
or he was 5, and
He was
we had
7.
6.
No, he wasn't top
Okay,
5.
so again, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like they tanked and got into that top 5, top 3, top 2. You know what I mean? To get these guys. So you're right in the approach of all these championship teams. It was a drafted player, but it's also has to do with luck, positioning, getting that picking the right person, as opposed
picking the
to
right person.
just losing
Correct.
and saying this is the way to do it, because that has not won yet.
But it all started with losing. And sometimes you have to lose in order to win. And therefore, that puts you in a position to grab certain players that are available to go ahead and catapult your organization, because that's how it works. Look,
Like
listen,
Joker?
Golden State, but that's a rare occurrence with that. You see, but I'm not saying you can't find guys later on. But my point, look, Denver wasn't still a team like that. They were competing at a level, but now Joker put them at a level as to where they could build around it. So actually, you just made my point about just going through the draft.
No, but us as fans, it's about, for you, it's about accepting losing. You know what I mean? Like, and
Sure.
some of us do, some of us don't. I mean, you got to accept where the cards fall. I don't think none of these teams lost on purpose.
They just
And
weren't
that,
good.
you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
just weren't good. It happened to fall that way. They made the right selection, and that's the way you win.
Mhm.
Losing on purpose, that is not the way to win, and it hasn't been proven otherwise yet. You know what I mean?
But
You have.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Don't finish. Sorry.
I mean, that's a good way to end it. It hasn't been proven yet that you can just lose intentionally, and that's going to get you the pieces to win a championship or be in
Okay.
contention.
This is what I'll say, and I'll pull up this comment because this is part I want to say. OKC, Warriors, Boston, Memphis, Philly, Milwaukee all did it through the draft, and look how they're reaping the benefits even now. This is what I will say. I get it. There's 3 ways to get a star. You draft them, free agent, draft, free agent. I'm missing one.
In
Trade.
trade.
And
I mean,
in a trade. Hold
it's
on.
the same 3 ways to get a bump, to get a bum too. Like, that's the only 3 ways you get any.
Okay. But let me finish. Okay. Let's not act like the Knicks have not done what OKC, the Warriors, Boston, Memphis, Philly, and Milwaukee did. Those guys didn't do anything special. This is what they did. They weren't good. They went into the lottery. They picked a player that happened to turn into a star. Did the Warriors know Steph Curry was going to be a star? No, they did not.
No.
Did Memphis know? Well, they might have known Ja was going to be a star, but they lucked up on the second pick. Did Milwaukee know Giannis was going to be a star? No, they did not.
Nope.
You understand? So the Knicks did the same thing these teams did. They weren't good enough. They lost. They went into the lottery. The only difference is that the Knicks didn't pick the right players. Had the Knicks picked Embiid, they would have kept him. Had the Knicks picked Milwaukee, they would have kept him. So everybody is acting like, Boston did something magical to get Tatum. Philly did something magical. What I will say about Philly and OKC is they made the decision from a front office and organizational standpoint that they're not going to, whatever vets they had, that they were going from an organization. They made the decision, we're going to get off of those guys and we're going to go young so we can get draft picks. Either way, though, however they did it, the Knicks had the same draft picks that these guys had. They just didn't pick well.
Steph, big difference. And you brought up a differentiator, which is true. There's another one. All those teams that are mentioned there, and Memphis said this, 2019, a new ownership group took over. You know what they said? They actually made a public statement to their fans and said, guys, we're going to full development here. We're going to build to the draft, and in so many years, we're going to have a product. Cleveland Cavaliers did the same thing to Dan Gilbert. Dan Gilbert has never been down with a rebuild. And they pitched him the idea, and he bought the idea, and look what it got him now. So the big difference between those Knicks and those OKCs, the Warriors, the Boston, Memphis, Philly, Milwaukee being in those same positions is that all those teams were committed to a full-blown development that took 3 to 5 years for a 7 to 10 years championship contention.
But this brings the argument: do you develop a star, or is a star already?
Both.
Because some people will argue you can't develop a star. It's either in you or it's not. You either are that or you aren't.
I gotta go finish this paper. It was nice getting on. I appreciate it.
I'm not saying I'm making that argument. I'm saying I've heard the argument against me.
No, but I agree with you. It does, to me, it doesn't matter whether you commit to a rebuild or you don't commit to a rebuild. The bottom line is, if you're in the lottery every year, whether you're doing it on purpose because you're stripping you're taking away your vets and you're playing young kids, or you're in the lottery because you tried to win and you weren't able to, the bottom line is you're in the lottery. The Knicks have been in the lottery for every year since 2014, except for 2 years ago. The Knicks had ample opportunity to hit like Philly and Memphis and Boston, because we're not even talking about where in the lottery. Because when you look at the superstars right now, all of them weren't top 5 picks. You know, some of them were the 13th pick, some of them were the 11th pick, some of them were the 17th. So it's not even about tanking or losing and to get into better position. The Knicks were in the same position as most of these guys. They just picked wrong. That's just the bottom line. You can sprinkle the same dust on what's his name that's in Detroit right now, Kevin Knox, that you sprinkle on Durant. Give him the same opportunities, the same developmental team, and Kevin Knox is not going to be John Morant. He's just not going to be. True. He's just, so let's stop with the Knicks didn't develop Knox. At the Knicks developed Knox, he would have been Kevin. No.
But you know what's
the Knicks have been unlucky.
If we're going to acknowledge that, we also have to acknowledge that was not this regime. Right? We have to acknowledge that.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? So that's another thing that kind of ticks me off sometimes when and shout out to Josh who just left, because he does it a lot in grouping the past 10 years, 20. You know what I mean? He groups it all together, and I think at certain point
they had their chances too.
I mean,
they had their chances too. Obi.
I mean,
they had their chances.
I agree. The consensus. But we don't know if that was the wrong move, right? Because people are arguing that Obi should have the keys. Obi should. You know what I mean? I know this is not your argument, but people argue that Josh just said the team is better with Obi as a starter rather than Randle. You know what I mean? So I think
that's a different argument.
Halliburton would have fit what we needed more and been utilized more. But I think part of the Obi issue is we drafted him with a guy that we know is in front of him, that we know he doesn't have the opportunity or is not even worthy, if you will, to come in and start. We got this guy here.
But Steph, here's another thing too that you missed, right? Is that if I say, for example, I end up with a Knox, right, and I have no choice in this matter, and I'm stuck with him, he becomes an investment, and he doesn't have to be a star. But can I build him up? Here's the challenge. Can I build him up to be a formidable player in the league that can play in the NBA in order for me to get something out of it, right? When I go ahead and depart from him. The Knicks have not done a good job of that.
I hear what you're saying, but in order to get that's fine. Mm-hmm. I get that. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But that's not going to move the needle as far as those other teams we just saw. You understand? What's moved the needle for those other teams is they drafted stars. Mm-hmm. You understand? Even if you build Knox up and you're able to get a first-round draft pick and you're able to get this, that's going to help you in a trade. But that's not going to help you in the draft. You know what I mean? That's
or another opportunity to draft a star. But I mean, I get what you I get his point.
No, I get your point, but I just don't think you could build a player up more than they are. Knox is over in Detroit on a rebuilding team, and he can't even get minutes. I mean, how much building are you going to do with a player who's just not a good prospect?
So you
Ntilikina wasn't a good prospect.
No, he wasn't.
How many players left the Knicks, young guys, and went somewhere and became stars?
No, I can't think of. Maybe Trevor Ariza might have been the closest thing to being a formidable role player. And David Lee, possibly.
David Lee. I was about to say, though.
Right.
But
I think I agree with you. But only thing I'm saying is that's what we've been doing, and we just haven't drafted the right guy. That's all. I agree with you. If we can get a guy through the draft, we've been doing that. Go ahead.
I don't want to miss this point about those names, those teams that the person had in the chat that did it right through the draft, allegedly. One of those teams, the Boston Celtics, they did very much like what the Knicks are doing currently. They acquired picks through trades, and it was those picks that they acquired that allowed them to be in position to have more draft capital, be able to draft more players, move up in the draft, move down in the draft, whatever, but it was draft picks that they they obtained through trades. So now the Knicks are doing it right. Like, the contracts are smart, and the trades are bringing in draft picks that you can use to move up, make trades yourself again, or hopefully give you more opportunities to get it right with the draft pick. I mean, Washington keep playing like this, you might be looking at 3 draft picks this year.
Right.
And Steph, to your point about the drafting, real quick, but we haven't done it well in free agency.
No, we haven't.
We how many trades have we won? And really said we fleeced them, or we got the best out of that deal.
Dennis Smith, as soon as Rose got here, Dennis Smith for Derrick Rose.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, but that's a minor move. We're talking about pivotal star moves.
Right.
Like, we're talking about acquiring a talent that's going to change the face of your organization. We're talking about.
Right.
I mean, we haven't done that since Melo.
And we didn't properly build around him. And
we did not.
That might have been shot a little bit too early, because we were going to get him in free agency anyway, possibly.
I mean, there's debates. I mean, I don't think he was going to reach free agency. I think that's the problem. He wasn't going to reach free agency.
He wanted the deal to get done. He wanted that money. He wanted that re-sign money versus that free agent money, sign and trade money. So he was getting traded,
and he was signing. You know what I mean, in the trade, the extension,
and Brooklyn was very much in play. So if Miller would have came,
wasn't in New Jersey at the time, but yeah.
But it was about to be Brooklyn, though.
But in hindsight, though, regardless of players who are involved or what was going to be happening, we can't see through that crystal ball. But we can see that what happened with it is that we gave up a lot of draft capital and a lot of players, and we only had one successful season with him throughout the 5 or 6 years he was here.
Right, but I don't think that's on the trade, though. I think that's on the front office, who the moves that were made or not made after they got him, that made that an unsuccessful trade, in my opinion.
But to this regime, this regime is more set to make a deal like that and to still have assets to be able to make a next move and do 2 moves together, essentially, which is what some of the kickback was about doing the Mitchell trade. It's like, all right, well, where are we gonna be if we do this deal? And I mean, I don't think we really know for sure what it was, but to your point, D, that's exactly what it was. You don't want to give it all up and not be able to make other power moves, not have any draft picks to be able to still get somebody. Now, listen, the deal wasn't done, but I feel like the cupboard is fully loaded with tradable contracts and draft picks. So
and it's going to be the same issue, DJ Shuttle. It's going to be the same issue, whatever star you go after.
Right. So
it's going to be the same issue.
So hopefully I can negotiate better with somebody else and not Danny Ainge.
It doesn't. Okay, no matter who you are, though, you're not getting a star for pennies on the dollar. You're gonna have to pay.
No, that's a fact. But some people you can negotiate in better good faith than others, and you know, I don't
But
know.
you still gonna have to give it up. You
No,
negotiating with me, I'm nice about it. D's being an
Mhm.
a-hole about it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, neither one of us settling for less. I'm just being nicer about it.
Yeah.
That's just it.
And plus, also, you know,
But there's
you have real quick, Charlie, real quick.
Yeah.
Development matters. You see, just because of this reason, if you want to trade or get that guy for free agency, you have to be able to have a viable crop in order for you to have those moves accessible, or else you'll just be stuck just giving up draft capital, and all of a sudden you take a risk on a star. Maybe you get a couple years of contention, but all of a sudden you're lost to the draft for the next 3 or 5 years.
But what you're saying is that we're not developing. I think a lot of the fan base feels that if you're not getting 20, 30 minutes a game, that you're not being developed. You can develop getting 20 minutes a game. There's nothing that says if you get 30 minutes a game, you're going to develop faster than if you get 20 minutes a game. You know, when I look at IQ has closed out. He played the fourth quarter of the past 2 games. He's been in various situations while he's on the Knicks. So I don't think you have to play 30, 35 minutes. Look at the season Knox had when he played, I don't know how many minutes. He didn't develop faster because he got more minutes. I agree. You do need game minutes. You can know the speed, what it takes, so you can continue to build on it. I just don't think, like for our fan base, give him 30 minutes. He's going to develop 2 times as faster if you gave him 15 minutes. I just don't. I just don't agree with
it's not that. Listen, it's a hit or miss league, right? And look how many organizations we revere, right? And then we go ahead and look at their draft stock, and it's like, well, they missed on that one, they missed on that one, they missed on that one. So everybody hits and misses. But I think the point is that at the end of the day, you want to put what you invest in the best possible situation to see what they do with a true enough example and experience on the court to go ahead and see what that result might yield. And I think that as an organization, we haven't always brought that to fruition.
Because that's not what we believe. Think about it. When they brought Tibbs in, I'm sure they asked Tibbs, what's your plan for development? Another coach would have said, you know what? I just believe in giving them all the minutes, whether they're ready or not. Just give them the minutes. We got to develop them. They just got to play.
Mm-hmm.
Tibbs said, no, that's not. And I'm sure they asked him this question. No, this is what I believe. You earn what you get. I'm going to give you minutes. I'm going to see what you do in those minutes. If you do better, you're going to get more. Now, if you get to the point in your minutes where we feel like we got to move off of the guy ahead of you, then we got to move off the guy ahead of you. Everybody does it different. The Knicks, Tibbs told them this is how he does it, and that organization was okay with that. I think there's many ways to develop. Just because one organization does that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. That's all I'm saying. But that being said, I don't have a problem if the Knicks believe, because this is what I can't get with. This is very triggering for me. Put somebody in just to see. Oh my God. You want to see me have a heart attack? Tell me to put somebody in just to see I'm going to have a heart attack. No. Put that player in because you believe with more time, he's going to be better than the guy that's in front of him. Then put him in. Put him in and move the guy in front of you. But I'm not putting you in just to see what you can do. I can't.
I think there has to be context behind that for me to say that in every scenario. You know what I mean? If the team as a whole, when I say as a whole, like the normal rotation guys are wet in the bed or number 2, at that point, let's take everybody out. Let's give the situation to guys.
No, I mean for the season, not for a game.
Okay,
I'm talking about for a season, not for a game. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. No. I'm talking about for a season.
And I was going to allude that what Tony just said, that I think there's certain circumstances where you do have to do that. And I think one of those examples is when you don't have a star and you're there searching and you're looking, you do have to go ahead. I'm not saying the whole season, that's why you break up the season into like 10 to 15, 20-minute segments. And you go ahead and say, well, okay, let me see what IQ, I'm just throwing in, see what IQ has there at 25, 30 minutes a night for 10 to 15 games to see how it works. And then we'll go ahead, we'll go. I mean, how you else?
I know. I'm listening to you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just saying. But how you gonna find out if you are not able to go ahead and do that?
Because I think you can
Steph
find.
never tried out. I'm sorry.
No.
No, it's okay. If Steph never tried out for the basketball team, Steph would have never known if she could make the team or not.
But there's a difference. But I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, you're not going to tell me more in 30 minutes than you're telling me in 20 minutes. You're not going to tell me that 10 extra minutes is going to make that much of a difference. And I'm not going to put you out there to see what you can do in 30 minutes. However, this is when I will do it. You balling out in that 20 minutes, you playing well in that 20 minutes, that person in front of you is doing okay, then yeah, I'm going to say, you know what? Let's see what he could do with more time, because he's playing well in the minutes he has, and that person in front of him, not playing that. Yes, I will do that. But I'm not experimenting now just to make it this person's playground. Oh, forget about the rest of the team. I'm just going to put him in and see what he can do.
No, of course.
I think there's a fine line, though. Like, I think with most of the fans wanted when we acquired Cam was for Tibbs to say, oh, you traded a first round pick, you got Cam here, put him in, find a role for him, give him the minutes. You know, and I think Tibbs' mentality was, let me find out how I could use him. What of his attributes can I use and it benefit the team? And now that he kind of found that position for him as I'm not going to call him a defensive stopper, but as the guy who kind of steadies, at least, and maybe you could argue whether he is or not, but steadies that defensive lineup in the first unit. We know what we want from you. You know what I mean? Boom, I found a niche for him. Now he can start adding other areas of improvement. But I'm not going to just throw him out here without knowing what I'm going to use him for. So I think it's a fine line. So you could argue that Tibbs is giving him his shot now, you know what I mean? But also, you gotta make use of it. You know what I mean?
I don't know
how long do you ride with a guy once you give him that opportunity? You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be short initially, and it's gonna be based off of production. If you're not producing, the less time you're gonna get those. You're not gonna get a third shot, a fourth shot, a fifth shot. Lucky for Cam, he did, because we were talking about preseason going into game one, and he might have blown his opportunity. But obviously, Tibbs seen something in those losses, in those what we consider blown opportunities, to say, I'm gonna still give him more opportunity.
I like the coach's approach. You earn your minutes, and you don't just. We talked about this before the season started. I mean, it's Cam Reddish. Like, he's cool, but it's not like you brought Harden in mid-season if you're Philly. Harden, yes, get the hell out there. Do something. You know what I'm saying? Cam Reddish didn't quite earn that level of cachet in the league. So, yeah, you need to come to the team. You got to practice with the team. We got to see who you are, what you do, how we can use you, like Tony said. And then he got his opportunity. He started playing well. He got hurt. This year, coming to the season, it was questionable what would happen. We thought Grimes might play over him. Grimes get hurt. Cam has his opportunity, and that's what you got to do. You got to stay ready. You don't got to get ready. And, Cam's now proven the type of potential that many of us saw, and why people did want him to play in the beginning when he first got here. But you gotta earn it. And, I know it's methodical. I know it may be considered old school, but I like Tibbs' approach. I like the way he's handled it. And he's proven by the way he's playing Cam now that he's not too stubborn, that he doesn't put Cam in a box where he doesn't want to play him or whatever. You just have to earn it and make the most of the opportunities when you get it.
Well, when I say earn it, I mean earn Tibbs' trust. Because it's different than like, earning it. There's I don't know what his formula is where you cross the line and now he trusts you. Because then once he trusts you, you get more time. Right? I don't really know what that looks like. I don't know.
I think I want to tell you that I firmly believe it's more than what we see. We see the games. Tibbs is going to be a guy that's going to look at your practice habits, how hard you practice, how much you hustle, how much you don't, if you're on time, your camaraderie with the players. Like I think Tibbs is looking at all those things. And
your work ethics after the games and after practice, if you spent extra time.
He do talk about that a lot too. He like,
what?
The players that's not coming back.
What? So Tibbs is looking at things that we, the fans, we only see the games. Tibbs sees the practice habits and the private workouts and all those things. So, I don't know, man. Tibbs is a smart guy. I don't really see this whole hot seat thing and all that personally.
I mean, I think it's if the Knicks go on this 5-game road swing, I don't know if you're expecting the Knicks to win any games out there though. Because even Golden State, who's 2-8, 3-7, they still Golden State. But if they get blown out in every single game and they look lethargic, like they didn't come to play, I could see Tibbs.
Do you think Tibbs is moved before the front office actually, whether it be a mistake of a trade or actually something that is a good trade? You don't think they go that route before they move Tibbs? Because I think
if something is out there though,
I think if Tibbs is on the hot seat, I think they're sitting on the same bench basically. You know what I mean? So if one side gets warm, I think the whole bench gets warm. So I feel like they may try to save face making a move. You know what I mean? Or inquiring about moves, because like you said, depends on what's out there. But I think they look that direction and search around the league and see who's available. And I think they exhaust all that before they move on for Tibbs, especially this year.
But there may not be something to be done though, Tom.
No, it may not. I'm just saying.
Even if there isn't, Tony. I think it depends on circumstances. Like, for example, if you have a couple more games on this West Coast trip, like you had at OKC, that seat starts getting real hot for Tibbs. And of course, I think he's a scapegoat in all this, but he's still going to be a guy that's going to be looked at. Okay, we got to see a change or something because we're getting these crazy high scoring games with guys shooting over 50% from the field or over 45% from three. I think they're going to say that's enough. It's enough.
I don't know. I think it's I agree that they're not gonna fire themselves.
Yeah, of course not.
You know what I mean? But I think that they're gonna resort for every little alternative to firing him before firing him. Because even if they fire him, all that does is make their hot seat hotter. You know what I mean? Like even if like I mentioned earlier, if an interim coach comes in and they start turning it around, it may not be to the credit of the interim coach. It may just be the team kind of bonding together, right? So moving forward afterwards, now you're in a predicament where do you extend this interim coach and give him a full term, a full contract, or do you look elsewhere? You know what I mean? Then if you look elsewhere, how soon is it before the next coach is on the hot seat when or it falls back on the front office? You know what I mean? Because they're making these decisions. They're making the roster decisions. They're making the personnel decisions. So,
well, I mean, you cross that bridge when that comes. But I think you have to take it one step at a time in baby steps. And let's be honest, guys, the team has not defensively responded to Tibbs throughout the whole season, bro. So therefore, that moment, okay, but there's a lot of crazy stuff that's happened early. We are 25th in the league in opponents' points per game. We are 30th in the league in opponents' 3 points made. we are 28th or I'm sorry, like 23 or 21st in over an opponent's field goals made. We don't play defense. So I'm saying the team, as you go weird just that, and the team has not responded to Tibbs as far as what is the most important component of defense in today's NBA, which is perimeter defense, because you have perimeter players at a high level playing every night, and the team hasn't responded.
And what
If
I was
it's possible, I would love to see the numbers of where we were defensively at this point last year, because that's where
we were
my point
terrible.
changes.
It got better. It got better. We were in the 20s and we ended up 11. You know, I'm not sure how it's probably a little bit of mixture of everything. Tibbs, schemes. Maybe his schemes is too complicated. Part of it is having the personnel to run the defense. And I think, some of it is the defensive IQ of some of these players. I like it's like they just started playing basketball on defense. When you look at Grimes, when he's off the ball, it's textbook. He's seeing his person, he's seeing his man, he's ready to make the like. You look at some of these other, other people. I think I'm fair with Julius, but on the offense, on defense, off the ball, he turned his back on Jaylen Brown to double team Marcus Smart, who was posting up Cam Reddish, who didn't need the help. And then Cam Reddish just threw it to Jalen Brunson, who relocated. And obviously Randle couldn't see him because his back was turned for the 3-point shot. And it's stuff like that you see all the time, not just with Randle, with a few other players as well. It's like they don't understand defensive concepts. So how much of it is a coach? How much of it is personnel? Just having the defensive skill set to be able to move and do what you need to do out on the perimeter. And how much of it is defensive IQ? I think it's a little bit of everything.
I predicted awful defense all summer.
You did say this was going to be a shootout. You did say that. I said, Shuttle is crazy. He think this is going to be an offensive team. We got to play defense. But you did predict that this is going to be a shootout. That we weren't going to play any defense.
Pace. I was saying it all summer. Once the Brunson deal got done, I mean, Randall's proven he's not a good defender. Brunson's not going to be able to stop anybody. RJ's defense is average. Fournier's, he plays some good,
he tries, but
Fournier plays smart passing lane defense. When if you're watching the game, he gets those deflections and he gets steals in the passing lanes, probably better than anybody on the team.
His thing is deny. Because if he get the ball, I don't know what to do.
Well, whatever his strategy, he's getting more deflections and more passing lane steals than anybody on the team. But yeah, I just knew that there was no way this was. Obi Toppin. You just don't have any defensive players. There's no attitude on defense by anybody. But I already knew the players, which is why I knew there'd be plenty of offense, but even I couldn't predict it'd be this bad when you give up 145 points in regulation. I would have. This is like old school Denver Nuggets versus Phoenix Suns in the 80s.
That's hilarious. Shootout. Can I ask you guys a question, and then I'm gonna
before we get it. No, we getting out of here.
Oh, my bad. I was about to say Ron Cleveland was asking for the link.
We about to get up out of here, Ron.
No doubt. Back to this small move that I was asking about earlier. Do you think a small move? Now, I'm not talking about any particular player, but a move where we're bringing in a two-way player or a defensive player, preferably two-way. But do you think, because defense seems to be the biggest concerns so far this season, I think our offense has improved. I think our assists are up. You know what I mean? Like, we look pretty, even in our best of moments. Like, it's the offense that's really shining. Do you think bringing in a defensive stopper, two-way player, do you think that will help us? You know, if the start, because everybody wants to start, if that's not available, do you think that a two-way move or a defensive player would help us at least tighten up this
Where you
team?
playing him? You bringing him in to start? Who are you playing him over? You bringing him in the second unit? Is that going to be enough?
Well, I mean, whichever scenario, I don't, preferably a starter, but that may not be the case. And I don't even know what position it may not. You know what I mean? Like, is it the wing? Is it the three? Is it the two? You know what I mean? Because no matter what, it's gonna bring in more questions than answers, unless it's a 2-for-1 deal somehow. You know what I mean? Where it kind of shores up.
If you could find,
Yeah.
I think if can you move RJ or Randle for a two-way small forward or power forward? That's gonna make a huge difference.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And
I don't
there's
know.
not too many two-way power forwards. You know what I mean?
No,
Unless we talk about
like,
the rank.
like five. It's like five. It's like five, maybe six tops. And the real true weakness is the scoring at the shooting guard / small forward position. Yes, RJ is getting his points, but we need something more dynamic at shooting guard. Maybe Cam Reddish is going to be it. Maybe Grimes starts playing it. Maybe he's going to be it. That's to be
Well,
seen.
what you doing with RJ though? If you got Grimes and Cam,
No, he's saying move on from RJ, like you said.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
My bad.
I'm not saying. I'm
My
not
bad.
saying move. I'm not saying. I'm not saying you can't move on from him though. But I'm just saying with RJ in the starting lineup, to me, the position right now is like, all right, Evan Fournier, we've tried, it's just not working. We got to give something else a shot, and it's going to be Cam. And if it's not Cam, then it's going to be Grimes.
But
And
Fournier is already out the lineup though. I think he's a non-factor.
Could have fooled me. You played 20 minutes.
He played 20 minutes. Yeah, I
Hey,
didn't understand that. I didn't understand that.
I'm talking about like with the new shakeup, Fournier is gonna be getting either Rose minutes or DNPs
Out the rotation. DNPs.
Yeah, like he's got to get situational Derrick Rose 8-9 minutes a game, or he's got to be DNPs because you got to get some. It's like, all right, we had 12-13 games now. We got an idea who we are and who we're not. We got to shake things up a little bit. To someone's point earlier, you got to kind of just shrink the rotation, take 10-15 games and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And you got to give it a shot and give it a run and see how well it does.
Hey, who want to see the Queen smile? Watch this.
To Zion.
Ooh.
I love Ingram. I'm not
Let's
saying
go.
he's a perfect player, but I like B.I., man.
There's a lot to love about B.I. though.
Yeah, I like
Ball
B.I.,
handler.
man.
Three unprotected.
3 unprotected and RJ.
I'm just saying you gotta entice them.
I don't think he's available. I think they like what he's doing over there.
He ain't going nowhere.
He's not going anywhere.
You don't think they take 3 unprotected and RJ?
I mean, but they're not trying to rebuild though. They.
I don't know if that necessarily is considered a rebuild for them. And I'll say that because they did
a step back though.
I don't know if definitively it is either, because they did what they did in the absence of Zion. So you can't really factor in it being a step back.
B.I. was part of the B.I. was there. It was Zion that wasn't there. You're gonna put RJ and Zion together, 2 non-shooting forwards.
I'm only making the argument that you can't say it's a step back because what we saw was not including Zion's presence. So we don't know that.
You're switching out Brandon Ingram for RJ.
And you're adding Zion is what I'm saying. Because Zion wasn't there, they didn't see that dynamic. So I'm not saying it definitively is better. What I'm saying is you can't say it's not, because what they did, what we saw from Brandon Ingram was in Zion's absence. That's what I'm saying.
But are you
So
following him now? What he's doing now in Zion's presence?
I am. I am.
Yeah.
I
And
am.
you're gonna take that away. You're gonna put RJ there.
I mean,
Come
and
on.
five and if I
Come
said
on,
5
Tom.
picks and 3 picks and 3 picks,
Come on. Anyway, I appreciate you, Nick family, for rocking with us. This was a dope show. D World of Hoops. I appreciate you rocking with us. And for all your content. I love to be able to go back and forth and disagree and banter and what have you. And it's nothing but respect and love on my part. I get animated sometimes, but it's nothing but love and respect for everybody on the panel and everybody who's ever shared the panel, including Josh, who was here earlier today. Any last words? You guys want to talk about what you have coming up? You want to drop your links in the chat? Shout out to Sim. Appreciate you. Forever grateful.
You only got 9 more minutes to make it 3 hours. I don't know if you want to stretch it.
Nah,
but
I'm tired. I'm tired.
My last
I thought I was
word.
getting off at 10. I thought I was like 10:30 the most.
That's what happens when one, there's a great panel, and two, we talking about what we love.
No doubt.
Shout out to Sim as well. Shout out to the Queen. Shout out to the panel. These were the hoops. Good stuff today. Shout out to the chat. It looks like the front stoop is gonna be done on Wednesday, so look out for that. We're doing the Nas review a little earlier before the Knicks game. I think that's it. Yo, Black, it's time.
Yep. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I'm spamming the chat with my link, by the way. But go ahead.
I just want to salute. I want to salute my artist MRG that I manage, artist from Queens. We had the big release party this past Thursday in Manhattan. Capacity jam packed. DJ NL Kane, DJ Suave, heavy hitters. Major. If you're not familiar, the single "Money Come" is on YouTube, about 500,000 views right now, and we're playing in New York City, Hot 97, and DJ Clue on Power 105 as well. So we cooking up. Stay tuned.
Wow. For sure.
Chat, thank you for everything. Panel, thank you for everything. Steph, thank you for the invite. Greatly appreciate it.
Anytime. Open invitation.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was definitely nice to Joust to just be chilled with it, just talk basketball and keep it at that. Thank you for the chat. Without you guys, we're not here, so we definitely appreciate you guys to the utmost and stuff like that. Tomorrow, I'm on at 12 p.m. for our pregame against the Utah Jazz at the start of our West Coast trip, so make sure you guys tune in at 12. I did drop the link for the channel in the chat. It is D's World of Hoops, so make sure you guys check that out. Thank you again.
All right. And salute for those who haven't subscribed to obviously Nothing But Knicks. If you're watching this, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification button so you'll be notified anytime anything goes live on this channel. For those who don't know, I'm the host of the Queen's Court, but I also have my own channel, Dope Soul Sports Talk. I'm on every Thursday, 9 p.m., just kicking it, or as I like to say, just nicking it. And then also after every Knicks game at 8 a.m., 8:15, I give my morning recap. I threw the link in the chat, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And with that, we are out of here.